Oh, your latter. I think we captured just a portion. Oh. You know,
Hello.
we're going to really be intentional. And I'm so excited when the time be encouraged and also to learn about how the system works. Okay, how you can emerge. I was even sharing with Dr. Emmanuel and that there's a statistic out there that black businesses do not survive 5 years. And I'm finding out something as a business owner myself, why that happens. So I'll share with them. You know what I mean? So we need to have wisdom in a country like this. We need wisdom to be able to navigate harsh terrain that we've been thrown into. Because no matter what you do, we are not from here. And so if you're not from here, you need the wisdom of an ant to be able to survive in a place like this. I just came back from a country that places its citizens above everybody else. Interestingly enough, that country, they are using everybody else to build the country, but you'll never get citizenship no matter what you do. Yeah, they give you 2 years visa, working visa. When it expires, you do a new one. Apparently, it costs about $2,000 for you to renew. The first time you pay about $3,000, and I'm like, you know what? Somebody is thinking here, and you see, it's clear that if you are not from a place, really, you can never belong. But there's a way to still navigate and do well in this place and excel because we have the God factor. Hallelujah. And you see, Bible talks about how, you eat the good of a land. It didn't say that you have to eat the good of a land, Ghana. Good of a land is where he has placed you. And there's good in America. You know the number of people who want to come here? Now they say 3 months only. So we are here. And God brought us here. I said, God brought us here. Emmanuel, God brought us here. God brought you from Kenya not to come and make you a pauper in America. I mean, the same good that the people are eating here, we can also have a share because we have a God who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask or think of. So I don't care what anybody puts in place. The God who is able to make exceptions can take us there. So today you are here to hear information. You are here to be counseled. You are here to have resources that will aid you transition from academia into a prosperous career. Hallelujah. And so today, I'm just going to wrap it up so I can allow the next person to come. I think maybe I should introduce the next speaker. Sylvia is coming next. Okay. So Sylvia is a leader in the health insurance space. For security reasons, we will not say which company. Right? But a leader there. And she's going to handle a session about networking and personal branding for career growth. Networking and personal branding for your career growth. How you sell yourself is how people will treat you. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let's invite to this August space, Mrs. Sylvia Mate Colley.
The mic working? Okay, there we go. Thank you, Rev, for the gracious introduction. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So Sylvia Matekale, I work for one of the Fortune 5 health insurance companies here in the Twin Cities. And I've worked in healthcare for about 25 years. And so I've got a little bit of experience. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is a little bit about my experiences and some of the things that I wish I would have known in the early part part of my career that will help you to not only navigate, but also to attain great success. So we're going to talk about the power of harnessing your personal brand and networking to help to build your career. And we want this to be interactive. So I'm going to invite you to ask questions and feel free. This is your time, so any questions that you have of me, please feel free to ask them. And, I'm going to build a little bit upon the agricultural analogy that Reverend gave, which, he talked about terrain. And if you think about having a garden, what happens if you don't cultivate that garden? You don't plant seeds, you don't water it, you don't remove the weeds. What's going to happen to that garden? It's going to become destroyed, right? So you've got to be really thoughtful and intentional about taking care of the garden. Sometimes you're going to plant some new seeds. Sometimes you're going to take some things out that shouldn't be there. And it is the same with our careers. We have to be intentional. We have to cultivate our careers. Amen? And that is something that we're going to build upon today. So I know we're working on bringing up the slides. So today we're going to begin by understanding, first of all, what is our personal brand? Why does it matter? Then we're going to build upon that, upon how do we communicate our brand. And then we'll cover the role of networking in career development. And then finally, we'll conclude with some actionable and tangible steps that we can take. And just in time, thank you. So next slide, if I may. Okay, so when you think about your personal brand, it's really understanding and defining your unique value. So what was your name again? Rady. So what do people think of when they think of you? They think of Rady. Okay, who is Rady? What are some of the things they're saying about you behind your back when you're not in the room? That is part of your personal brand, right? So when we think about personal brand, it's understanding not only what personal brand is, but also we're going to build upon some of the key misconceptions about personal branding and how we can develop a strong and authentic brand. Sorry, if you can go back one slide. All right, so if we think about the definition and importance of personal branding, so again, think about your professional fingerprint. That's how I look at it. Everyone has a very unique fingerprint. And so personal branding is really that distinctive value that you bring. So when somebody thinks about Dr. Emmanuel, when somebody thinks about Sister Sylvia, what is it that comes to mind? What is our personal brand? And whether you realize it or not, you have a brand. You might as well be a part of shaping what that brand is, right? So it's what impact you bring, how it influences how other people view you. That is your personal brand, your reputation, your image. What do people think of you? And again, it's something we have to be very intentional about. And then when you think about the key elements of a brand, right? Even if you think about Apple or Samsung or Hyundai, right? They have strengths, right? So if you think about a GM car, for example, we know that it has a lot of functionality, right? We know that, you've got the sunglasses holder, you've got things that are really functional. They're good family cars, perhaps, right? And then when you think about a Porsche, for example, it's something that is a status symbol. It's something that, is fast. It's known for speed. Every aspect of who you are, right? There is an element that your core value that you bring, your presence, how people perceive you. So whether you realize it or not, we all have a brand. And so we have to be really intentional about building and cultivating that brand. And that brand helps to open doors, right? It helps to provide career advancements and opportunities. And so again, we have to be really deliberate about how we build our professional identity and really intentional about how we build our brand. Oftentimes, you may have the idea that, if I work hard enough and I go to work and I work really hard, that's enough, right? And that's not enough, right? It's really important that we're thoughtful about who we are, the key value proposition that we bring to the professional environment. And as children of God, a foundational element that I just want to put out there is everything that we do has to be done to be done with excellence. And it has to be done with integrity, right? So no matter, we're talking about building your personal brand, but those are two foundational elements that should be a part of every child of God's brand. Of you, when they say that your name, they know that when you deliver things, it's done with excellence, that you have integrity, you do what you say you're going to do, and you're going to follow through. That has to be foundational. Next slide, please. Personal brand. I've already talked a little bit about the foundation of doing things with excellence and integrity, but there has to be authenticity. You know, are you showing up as somebody that you're not? Right? Are you? You have to have a strong personal brand that is rooted in authenticity, genuine image that reflects your core values. So it can't be that we're one person on Sunday and we're another person in the workplace. You know, we played a game recently at work as part of an icebreaker, and we all had to put a little thing in a box that said one fun fact about ourselves. And interestingly, I put in there, I said, I'm going on a missions trip. Don't put your name or any identifier. And they had to guess who it was. And unanimously, everyone says Sylvia. And I was actually really happy about that, because that means who I am and who I say I am is actually showing up in the workplace. That is really important, that we have to be authentic. We have to know our strengths. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, Dr. Emmanuel, what are you good at? Give me your elevator pitch. You know, what value do you bring? You better know. You better know, and you better have a strong position and be able to communicate it with clarity, what your unique strengths are and the value proposition that you bring. And you have to be consistent. Again, you can't have one version of yourself here, another version here. The foundation of who you are should be consistent, right? And again, that goes into building trust and authenticity and reinforces your brand. And then finally, as I've said a number of times, having a clear value proposition that articulates the unique benefits that you bring. You know, in the professional environment, everyone wants to know, what value are you going to bring? So what's your name? Emmanuel. They want to know, okay, Emmanuel, what is unique about you? What value will you bring to this team, right? It's a reciprocal relationship. Obviously, you want to be employed, but they want to know what you bring, what's different about you, right? And you have to be able to have a really strong value proposition and one that you can clearly articulate. Let's talk a little bit about misconceptions about personal branding. And I think this is especially important for us, and I think especially important for, immigrant populations. And here's why. I think oftentimes we're raised to believe that you go to work, you work hard, you say, yes, sir. And you know, it's good, it's important to have humility, right? But that level of false humility can be very damaging to your career. Because guess what? Sometimes the people that are promoted are not necessarily the most skilled and the most talented and the most suited for the role. We've all seen it, right? We've all seen it. And so I want us to dispel the idea that talking about the value that you bring is in some way bragging, is in some way boasting. Let's put that out of our minds. If you do something well, bring it to the forefront. If you know that you have value to bring to an organization, don't be shy about saying it. Because at the end of the day, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. They get your skills, they get your talents. But if we try to navigate this professional environment and be covert and hide our skills and not allow our lights to shine brightly, it will hurt us. So this idea that, you know, we can't speak about and talk about our skills and talents, let's take that away, right? It's not about self-promotion. It is about sharing your value proposition and what you bring to the table. men. And I want us to all take, if you take nothing else away, take this away, right? So I want us to all be really self-aware, right? And understand, again, the value that we bring. And don't be shy about sharing it. Do not be shy. All right, so talking about personal brand, I mentioned a little bit earlier that, you know, if I go to somebody and say, okay, tell me about Emmanuel, what are the first three things that they will say? Let's look at some real-world examples. All right, so the man on the left, does everyone know who that is? Who's that? Yeah, and what do we know about them? Just three things. He's a billionaire, one, yes. What else? Amazon, exactly, one of the biggest super brands,
Hello.
you know. What else? Intentional, exactly right. And then Steve Jobs in the middle. What do we think of when we think of Steve Jobs? Inventor of Apple, yes, or some people would dispute that, but yes, the face of Apple for sure. What else? Innovative, yep. What did you say, billionaire as well? That's right. Yeah, you know, and he changed the consumer branding space, right? And the man to the right, do we all know who that is? James? All right. Emmanuel, what do you think of when you think of LeBron James? The GOAT, the greatest of all time. What else? Hard work and discipline. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And so we all have a brand. Whether you realize it or not, we all have a brand. There's something that people are saying about you when you're not in the room. So you might as well be a part of shaping and cultivating what that brand is, right? So successful professionals, when you think about the Jeff Bezoses and even LeBron, they have been intentional about creating a strong personal brand that reflects their unique skills and their values and what they're ultimately trying to bring, right? Now, because we are children of God, I want to bring the biblical lens to this. If we can move to the next slide. Right, so I want to give a few examples in the Bible of people who had a strong personal brand that truly represented their core values and who they are. And so Daniel, when you think of Daniel, we think of Daniel. Children, what do you think of when you think about Daniel in the Bible? There you go, Daniel in the lion's den, right, exactly. I used to be a Sunday school teacher, so I knew you'd know that. So yeah, Daniel in the lion's den. So we think of Daniel as somebody who is courageous. Another aspect of Daniel's character is that he wasn't afraid to go against the conventional wisdom and rules of the day and say, I'm not eating that, I'm not doing that, and I'm not serving your God. And so the Bible also says that Daniel had an excellent spirit, right? So these are all things that we think about. When we think of Daniel, we think about his integrity, his wisdom, his discipline, and ultimately, what did that yield? It yielded his promotion, right? So when you think about your personal brand and your integrity and your excellence, it will yield promotion. It will yield success. Another example is Joseph, right? Again, we think about Joseph, we think about his vision and his resilience, right? And ultimately, he had a very, very tough journey. It was not a straight road, right? And for some of us, and many of us in this career environment, and we talked about terrain, sometimes the terrain is rough. Sometimes you're going to go through some real difficulties, and it's going to require a tremendous amount of resilience. But when you continue forward, you will prevail. And Joseph is an example of that he continued forward with integrity and with resilience and ultimately was promoted. And then when you think about Ruth, what do you think about when you think about Ruth? You know, Ruth, we think about her relationship with her mother-in-law and how loyal she was, right? We all want to work with loyal people, right? She was loyal, she was humble, and she was a woman of noble character. These are all traits that, whether we realize it, we may think of them as simply character traits, but they are integral to the personal brand and what these individuals in the Bible represent. So my question here is, what are you known for? And what is the unique value that you bring? Amen. Welcome. Move on really quickly, just in the interest of time, and talk a little bit about communicating your personal brand, right? Because we know that we live in an environment, it's not enough to just build your brand. People have to know about your brand. They have to know about the value that you bring. And that requires a certain level of self-awareness. So understanding, what are your core strengths? What are you good at, right? Young lady, what's your name? Emanuela? Okay, this is Emanuela. God is with us side of the room. I think you need to move on this side. So Emanuela, think about some of your core strengths. What are you good at? What are some of your talents? What are some of the successes that you can think of in your career, in your academia? These are all things that are important when you're thinking about communicating your personal brand. Next slide, please. And then we talked a little bit about the biblical examples, right, of Ruth and Joseph and Daniel. It's important, again, when we talk about authenticity, that who you are outside of work, there is a consistency, there's a convergence there, and that your personal values permeate every part of what you do. It drives your decision-making, your actions, your beliefs. And again, you're going to hear me say this word a lot, but again, what is your unique value proposition? Understanding the unique value that you give, right? Say if you're in the elevator with the CEO, and you have your one opportunity, and they say, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you have something in mind? Do you know your strengths? Do you have some career successes or academic successes that you can bring? Are you clear on what your values and beliefs are? Are you able to tell your true value story? And these are all very important and reflect your authentic and compelling personal brand. All right, so we're gonna talk about now the role of networking. So we've talked a lot about building your personal brand and how important that is. And now we're going to talk about the role of networking in career development. How many of us know that it's not enough to just work hard? Yeah. You can sit at your desk, you can do all the great work, but that's not enough. That's not enough. You know, many of us were raised with that idea that, you know, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job, you work hard, you sit in your cube with your head down and you do an excellent job. And somebody will recognize you and they'll say, yes, Emanuela, I want to promote you because you've been working hard. Sometimes it does happen that way, but oftentimes it does not. So I want to give us a few examples of the power of networking. Now, one of the things I want to just share is there's a statistic that shows that about 85% of jobs are filled through networking. You know, it's essential for career advancement. And the important thing, I would just want to give a personal example, is it's really a mistake to network when you have a need. Network when you don't have a need. You know, a few years ago, I had a situation at work. And basically they said, you know, Sylvia, I think you have until the end of the month. And I said, this is a tough message. And I was just beside myself. I was praying. And then I remembered that, hold on a second, I know some people. And so I picked up the phone and I told one of the senior leaders the situation that I was in. And there was a position that they had just taken down. They had 2 finalists that they were getting ready to move forward with. And that leader spoke to the leader who was hiring for that position, and I went to the front of the line, and within a week, I was given that job, and it was better than the job that I had. You know, and that is the power of, when you talk about the network, your number one contact in your network is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. You know, but we have to work the power of our network. Now, if I didn't have a relationship with that leader, could I have called her up and said, hey, I have a need? But she and I would meet every month. We'd have lunch together. We had a relationship, and we'd known each other for years. So when I had a need, it wasn't transactional. It was like, okay, I have a relationship with Sylvia, and I want to help her. So don't wait until you have a need to build that network. It is critical to your advancement and your career. Again, we talked about personal values. And we talked about building relationships. When you think about networking, the simple thing here is it's all about building relationships. It's as simple as that. It's all about building relationships. So get out there, meet people, build relationships. Let people know who you are and the unique value that you bring. Again, communicating your personal brand. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go over the next slide really quickly. So what are some of the types of networking, right? So we've got formal networking, like in the professional environment, at conferences, things of that nature. And then you've got informal networking. So you can call this informal networking. So, talk to people in your friendship group, in your church, in your community. Get to know people, understand what they do, learn from them. These are all opportunities. And there's digital networking, right? We live in a digital age. Connecting with people on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of those other vehicles as well. And don't be afraid to, reach out and ask people to mentor you or sponsor you in some way. And I always encourage individuals, don't just stay in your area of knowledge and expertise. There's so much that you can learn from people who work in a different department or work in a different industry. So build your network across industries, across lines of competencies, and build those networks. There are some friends in my network, professional network, who have been great mentors and support to me, and I've never met them. We've only met online. We've only talked on the phone. It is possible in this age. So be really intentional about building that network, formally and informally. And I talked a little bit about building authentic relationships. It's not transactional because ideally when you are building your network and building relationships, it's supposed to be mutually beneficial. Again, we talked about your value proposition. There are things that individuals can learn from you. Even if your early careers, don't think, oh my goodness, I want to talk to Mr. Banker, but he's top of his career. What could I possibly share with him, right? What could he possibly gain from a relationship with me? Take that out of your mind and don't be afraid to reach out, build authentic relationships, because believe it or not, you have something to bring and it is a mutually beneficial relationship. I would tell you that there are a lot of leaders who find it really refreshing to engage with the next generation of leaders. Next slide. Again, I mentioned, that genuine connection and that mutually beneficial relationship that can really help to support your career development and growth. Next slide, please. All right. I don't know how many of us know that there's a hidden job market. There is a hidden job market. There are jobs that are not posted. I can tell you I've had a number of those jobs that were not posted. And how do you get to know about them? Through your network. And I'm going to personalize this a little bit and just share a story. I had a job that I had interviewed for years ago, and it was a really grueling interview process. I went through 10 interviews. Who goes through who interviews and has 10 interviews? I got to a point where I was so tired, but it was an important role. And ultimately, they ended up calling somebody who had worked with me before. And they said, hey, what do you know about Sylvia? And that person said, I've worked with her, this, and this, and this. Again, this wasn't a formal reference. They informally went through channels to find somebody that they knew me. And this person gave me a good report and said, you need to hire Sylvia. So be intentional, whether you're working with a peer or somebody at a senior leadership level, that they may one day speak about you. So don't disregard anyone, no matter the level, whether they're an analyst or a CEO. Treat everyone with kindness and respect and ensure that who you are and the values that you represent shine through in every interaction. Because one day, they may be giving a report on you, right? It's all part of your personal brand. And networking, as I mentioned before, it opens the door to mentoring, to relationships that will really help to accelerate your career and move you to that next level. Next slide, please. All right, so one thing I would say is once you make those connections, maintain those relationships. I will tell you one trick that I've used is if I meet a new leader and I have a meet and greet, let's say I'm meeting with you for the first time, Emmanuel, and I say, you know what, are there any other individuals in your network that you would recommend that I meet with? And I do that with every person. And then I get 1 or 2 or 3 names, and before you realize it, your network has blown up. And people are willing to open up their networks, and they're willing to share. All you have to do is ask. And it becomes part of your support network, because if you realize it or not, we can't do this life alone. We need help. We need support. And there's no individual that has achieved any measure of success without some kind of help. All right, so let's quickly move on to the next slide. I know I'm running out of time here. All right, next slide, please. And I'll just cover this really quickly. But when you think about the convergence of your personal brand and your network, it helps to build and establish your credibility again. And your network then helps to amplify your brand. So if you're showing up authentically, your network will again amplify your brand. It will boost your visibility, and people will talk about you. Just like people talk about Samsung or Apple, or they're saying something, whether it's good or bad, right? Your network will amplify your brand. And again, building those strong relationships within your network will lead to more opportunities. And again, it's mutually beneficial. So ideally, it will lead to mutual growth and long-term success. Next slide, please. So again, I'm just going to emphasize, be proactive. Seize opportunities, right? Don't be shy. If you're looking for a new opportunity and you've built a strong relationship with individuals in your network, go out there, share. You know what, I'm really interested in learning more about this field. Who would you recommend that I speak with? Or, I'm looking for my next role, and this is a kind of role that I would like, and this is a value that I think I can bring, and the skills that I think align with that role. So be proactive, leverage that network, and it will open tremendous doors for you. All right, so if we can skip forward 2 slides. So I want to challenge you all. This is my charge to you. Begin networking by reaching out to 5 new individuals this month. Can we all do that? I can be one of them. Okay. Broaden your network. And then once you've established those relationships, check in with them. Don't let them go stale. Even if it's an update of, hey, I really enjoyed meeting with you last month, and here's an update on what's happening with me professionally. Keep those relationships going. And if you feel a strong connection, you can say, I really enjoyed this interaction that we had. Do you think we can meet on a monthly or quarterly basis? And then before you know it, you have a regular meeting and you're continuing to build that relationship. So I encourage you all to do that. Get out there. Are you a part of a professional organization? Whatever your field is, there's so many professional organizations out there. Get out there, meet people, leverage LinkedIn, connect with people, grow your network, and also bring your value to help others as well. All right, next slide. So start small and start now. There's a saying or a proverb that I heard which says that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We can achieve success on our own, right? We can, some measure of success, but we'll go so much further if we do it together. So as much as we talk about building our network and leveraging our network for career growth, also be that for somebody else. Share your skills, your attributes, your experience to help others as well to grow. And if we can skip, I'm going to skip a couple slides because I'm out of time. So if you can skip to the next one, yeah. And I just want to quote a verse here that is really important, and I want us to really think about this. So the Bible says in 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And the reason why I'm bringing this scripture forward is oftentimes what prevents us from reaching out is fear. What if I fumble my words? What if I don't come across the way that I want to come across? We're all human beings. Let that fear be dispelled and go forward. The Lord is with you. You're not alone. He's the number one individual in your network. You are not alone. So the fear of rejection, the fear of, oh my goodness, I'm going to be bothering Mr. Banker if I call him. I'm going to be bothering Dr. Emmanuel. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. And, maybe there's that lack of, I don't have the right words. I'm an introvert. God can work with your introversion. Put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. And don't let any of those barriers hold you back. And so I'm just going to end here in conclusion. Again, at the center of our personal brand and our network is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Remember, we all have a brand. Let's be a part of shaping what that brand is, right? Networking is so important. Be intentional about it. So every one of you, go out and meet somebody new this month. At least 5, right? And apply strategies to meet individuals. I gave you a couple. You meet with Emmanuel. Hey, Emmanuel, who else would you recommend that I meet with? As you're meeting individuals that are in your career field that you're interested in, ask them about themselves. Ask them who else you should be connecting in with. So again, your personal brand, your network, all of those things will cultivate and come together to help you to build your authentic brand and value proposition that you bring, and you will achieve great success with the Lord's help. Amen.
You guys can do better. Come on. Wow. You know what really hurts me now? That you didn't come on time. Because there's a lot of good stuff in there, I tell you. All right, let's take 2 questions. Mr. Banker is ready, but let's take 2 questions just so that, we do justice. 2 questions real quick. And then, yes, sir. Can I get a mic? Okay, one over there. Yeah, over there. Yes, so, Sister Sylvia, you can come. Emmanuel, it will be open to all of us resource people around.
Perfect. All right. Ms. Sylvia, thank you so much. That was really insightful. Simple wisdom, but goes a long way. I like when you mention the misconceptions about personal branding, and you said sometimes in the workplace, we come off as trying to maintain a humble stance and trying not to put our strengths forward because we feel like
false humility.
Okay. How do we navigate that? I was hoping you would speak more about that. How do I put my strengths forward? How do I make my abilities and qualities known without coming off as overbearing or overstepping? Or because it could easily be confused as you're looking for the limelight. You're trying to overshine your colleagues. And you might even end up building some quote-unquote haters at the workplace. Oh, I don't like Sylvia. She's always talking about how good she is. How do you navigate that space? Yeah.
You. The haters will be there. They'll be there. So don't allow the haters, so to speak, to quiet your voice. What I'll say is, we have to reframe how we think about things. Don't think about it as self-promotion. Think about it as self-advocacy. We have to be our own best advocates, whether it's at the doctor's office or whether it is in the professional environment. We have to be our own best advocates. And the reality of the situation is that in order to advance and grow, people have to know what it is that you do. They have to know what you've accomplished, right? Because you can be achieving successes. And if you don't put your voice forward and take credit for the work that you've done, somebody else will. So it's really important. So we have to reframe our thinking. Don't focus upon the haters because, like I said, even if you say nothing, they are there. Because, your talents and your gifts speak for themselves, and they will see your talents and gifts, and that will be enough to still not have disdain towards you. So don't allow individuals to prevent God from accomplishing what he has planned for in your life. So be verbose. The people that I've seen arise are those who are not shy about sharing their accomplishments, sharing their skills. And it's important because, and I'll end on this note, when they have a new stretch opportunity or a project, they will have you in mind. But if you're sitting at your desk doing what you do and doing what you do well, you won't get opportunities to grow and stretch and do new things. And it's really important.
Yeah, those people that get fired when there's time to cut people off. Those who don't say anything, they're in their own corner. They're false, humble people. They get canned very quickly.
Yeah.
So good question. One thing too is don't focus so much on the eye as well. It shines light on your boss, on the company.
Yes.
So report it as impact. I mean, I had a colleague who helped me in that. Bob go and do the test or experiment, but the way you come and report it, that this week we led 10 customers to do this and they get good feedback and blah, blah, blah. You didn't say I, but at least you've said something that has put you on it.
I have a practical example. So I was working somewhere and I realized that what we do is in 3 buckets. We have what we do currently, and then we have the legacy projects. And then there was, I gave 3 names to, I don't remember the mid one. And then I was talking to my boss. I needed to create an avenue for myself. It was so crowded, a lot of people making noise. So my one-on-ones, I just, put that across that, hey, I realized that at this point, this is what we have going on. There's current projects, we have legacy projects, and we have ad hoc projects, right? And I think that legacy projects hold a serious bearing on what we do now, but it's like nobody has bandwidth to do that. I'm your guy. Anything that nobody wants to do on the team, I will do it. On my day of leaving the company, that's what they brought up. That I had the supposedly toughest projects on the team because nobody wanted, and they laughed. But that gave me time to do other things on the side. And that's what helped me transition into an entrepreneur. Get it? So you need to have the wisdom of God also. Pray for wisdom. There are different ways of doing this. You just have to allow God to use you in that regard. But well spoken. One more. We said 2, right? Okay. You.
Oh, okay. So when it comes to networking, I don't know if you hit on this or anything, but there are differences in who you network with. And my question is, how important is it that when you're networking with a CEO, a CFO, is to have questions ready, more so you're maybe networking with my colleague or my senior engineer. I mean, I'm going to have questions ready too regardless, but how important is that CEO one to have ready?
Yeah, no, and I skipped over that slide, so I'm so glad that you brought this forward. And I'll give a really recent and tangible example. So I'm part of this program where I was paired with a CEO in our organization, and he's my sponsor. And believe it or not, I researched that gentleman. I researched his organization, the lines of businesses. I went, on our intranet site and I downloaded information. So yeah, I went in and I was very prepared. But the interesting thing is he also had done research on me. And he had gone into my LinkedIn profile. He'd spoken to a leader that had managed me years ago. And so that is how leaders show up. They do their research. You have to know the company. You have to know their business. And you have to come in with intelligent questions, right? And again, ideally, those relationships will be mutually beneficial. So yes, do your homework, do your research, and go in very, very prepared. They don't have time, exactly.
Don't go and ask about what car he drives.
Yeah.
What he ate for lunch.
Right, exactly.
I think this is amazing. This is brilliant.
Thank you.
We said 2 questions. Why are you trying to extend the time? Our keynote wants to speak. Okay, he's my minister. I have to allow him, else I'll be in trouble. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question. So what do you do if you're on a team, your boss built a team from scratch? She knows the ins and outs of the of the team, but she does not want you reaching out to anybody else outside of her team. So in that case, how do you still build a network system at the workplace? Because I think she may have an opinion that you're reaching out to outside of her team, and you're in a team where she just want everything going out through her. So what are your thoughts or your guide in situations like that?
Yeah, that's a very real example and a very real challenge, because that is, you've kind of described some kind of management flaws, and some interpersonal, interrelational challenges that are very real in the workplace. And you have to be very, very careful, because there are some leaders who, they don't want you reaching out because they feel like you're going over their head, right? So you've got to be really, really thoughtful about how you do it, and how you approach it. What I will say, because I've been in that situation before, still build those relationships, right? It's so important. It's so important. But you have to do it in a way that's very thoughtful and very tactful. Very thoughtful and very tactful. And I think, as Dr. Emmanuel had mentioned earlier, that it's really important that you spotlight not only what you do, but also what your team does as well, so that this individual doesn't feel like you're just going out there trying to put the spotlight on yourself and kind of thwart the work that the team is doing. But it's not an easy situation at all. And I had a leader like that, and she required a lot of check-ins. She wanted to know what I was doing. She wanted, you're nodding your head, so I think I have a micromanager. And sadly, sometimes you've got to work with what's given you, the cards that are given to you. And sometimes you've got to manage up, right? I have a leader who, I hadn't had a one-on-one with him in 6 months, so I set up the one-on-ones. I check in. I let him know what's going on. I mean, is that how it's supposed to be, right? But you still work through it. But I would tell you, don't let that hinder you from building relationships, because our success is rooted in those relationships. So I think continue those relationships, but again, be really thoughtful about how you navigate those relationships. And again, be really thoughtful about how you continue to cultivate that relationship with your leader. As difficult as she may be, you've got to kind of work with her and make sure that you are checking in with her, giving her updates, doing all of those things. And I know it's not easy, but God will make a way. God will make a way.
To add to that as well, I think like what Sister Sylvia said, you want to be transparent as well. So every encounter, let them know, are you okay if I talk to this person? Or I'm going to talk to this person. And one strategy I used was I had some open goals. So I did something like maybe outreach or enablement. And then I'll say,
part of your goal for the year.
Yeah, so it helps all of us. Help the
formalized it.
I need to talk to these people, on this general thing, even if it's cafeteria staff or going to schools. But find some open goal. And then
it's a control thing. So once they know that's what you are doing, they're okay. Typically, it's a control thing. All right? Great. I think we're good. Okay. Other questions, though, we will be around, but I'm so excited about this time. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge the presence of somebody very important. I mean, Bible talks about giving honor to whom honor is due. And for the purposes of this discussion, I want to acknowledge my dear friend's father-in-law, Mr. Jehu, right here, over there. I will plant a question for you to ask him. I don't want to reveal his identity, but I'll plant a question for you to ask him. I know he doesn't mind, because when people have done well, they want to impact knowledge every opportunity they can. If my misbehavior comes in, I may easily pull him up to just share this answer to us. But if we don't do that and Kweku has to slip out, I want you to ask him this one question. With all his years of experience, if he had to advise a young person starting out today, what will he tell you? Did you get the question? Okay. I'm telling you, you will not regret asking that question. Okay. I rest my case. Right. Talking about unique value proposition. At age 15, I found out that I liked God. And I decided that even in school, I'm going to exploit that to the highest level. And so one day, I'm doing my God thing in church. And after Scripture Union, this young man walks up to me and says to me, he likes the way I do God. And so he wants to be my friend. Because, he had just given his life to Christ, and he thought he could have some good influences around him. Do you know what that birthed? It birthed me entering into, I'll say, an upper class, collection of human beings that are smart, that were on their way to America to school. It was a collection of certain high-level people in the school that I went to. So December, we went home and he invited me to his birthday party. When I entered that place, it was a collection of the high-level human beings I was calling up, because those were his types of friends. Are you understand what I'm saying? And the rest is history. And as I speak to you right now, if ever something happens to me, and God forbid, my wife is not also there, I think you should call him. That's how much we become like brothers now. And so I'm so proud of him at what God has used him to do. He's very loaded with experience. I mean, he works in the one of the top 4 accounting firms in the nation. He's a partner. I mean, being a partner is like everybody's dream. Some people even don't dream it because it's very difficult to achieve that. And not only is he a partner, he's one of few of our kind in that system. I mean, he has loads of experience, loads of stories, and I get to hear those things every now and then. Are you here with me? And he's a correct Christian, I'll tell you. One thing I like about him is he's real with his Christianity. So our conversations are not trying to compete and sugarcoat things, If you are doing wrong, you are doing wrong. It's not like, I nearly, people have a way of talking. No, that's how real he is. And so I couldn't just think beyond him when it came to this time. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to bring him up at this time. Look, ask questions. He's been through the mill. He's seen stuff here in this country. And I think he's the best person to be a keynote. You walk out of here inspired, I tell you. You walk out of here inspired and encouraged to go to the highest peak. If there's ever somewhere above the horizon that you have not heard of, I think after this man speaks, you start flying. I tell you, you start flying. I'm not trying to pump him up. I enjoy and experience that. And one thing that he's skilled at, he finds solutions where there's no solution. I'm sure his father-in-law will attest to this. He finds solutions when there's and he's so skilled at just finding the needle in the haystack. Something nobody's paying attention to. He catches it just like this. This is amazing. So sometimes there are times where I get a job offer and I let him scrutinize it before I go in for the final kill. You get it? So ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to introduce to you my friend from 15 years of age. The rest is history now. If you know my age, you know how long it's been. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will with me, let's rise up on our feet and welcome to this guest podium, Mr. Kweku Banka. Before Kweku takes a mic from me, I want to acknowledge that Pastor King was not able to make it today, and he's fully with us. He's very excited about what we are doing. If somebody's not here, you better get them here. This session, I did not want anybody to miss it. Kweku, over to you already.
Wow. That was a wild introduction. Totally exceeded my experience. Everybody, please have a seat. All right, so we're going to have a conversation. My goal here is not just to talk at you. If that's what you expected, just to talk and talk, no. I want this to be interactive, right? What I hope we can accomplish today is that you hear my story, you hear the challenges I'm going through. Possible. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the real challenges, how the real workplace works. Because there's a perception that, and Sylvia, you did a great job hitting on it, work hard, do what you have to do, and everything will just work out. I am so sorry. That is not how the real world works, right? So we're going to talk about a couple of different things. Can the slides start, and then we can kind of jump into it and go from there. And while you pull up the slides, so I'm here today with my 2 sons, Joshua and Caleb. How are you doing? And then my father-in-law is also here, who has been instrumental in my journey, Mr. Jerry. So just wanted to acknowledge them as well. All right. Okay. Perfect. All right. So today, my understanding is the theme is Career Day, right? And as part of that, let's go back one slide. As part of that, I took a couple of a saying that means a lot to me. Begin with the end in mind. It's from a book that I would encourage all of you to read. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read this book very early in my life, and it really keeps reminding me of what is important and why you do what you do. You have to have a why. You have to have something that always brings the engine on. Reverend Mark talked about at an early age, he decided he was going to serve God. That's his why. And we all have to have that as Christians. It starts with God. Everything we're talking about, that Sylvia is talking about, that I will touch on, these things will not work if God is not by your side. You need to have God in your camp. He's the most important person in your network. Thanks for saying that. That is important because as I share my journey, there are a lot of things I will be so transparent. I wasn't as strategic. Everything wasn't based on strategies. There were just some things, right place, right time, right opportunity. And for those of you that are here on a Saturday morning, I have to say this. When I was much younger, I don't think I would be here on a Saturday morning, right? So I want to give you credit for being here, right? Oftentimes, the difference between who gets promoted and who doesn't get promoted or who gets that next big job, it's inches. It's not that much. It's not like one person is here or the other. It's the investment you're making here today, sitting here, getting wisdom, and other people might be at home. You will hear something. You build a network. You get connected more to us. It's an intimate group, and actually that is good. If this whole place is filled, it makes it a bit more informal, right? But with a smaller number, we can really get into a lot of details. I love how many questions you are asking. That is key. So when I think of career success, how to get there, thrive there, and lead others, it's not just getting a job. It's the whole span of your life. Because, you can get a job early. You can graduate, and I'll get into a lot of those details. You can graduate, have a great job. You do it for 2 years, and they fire you. And you're sitting home for the next 8 years. Well, that's a failure. That's not a job. That's not what you want in your career. You want it to last. You want to say 20 years in, I'm still making money, whether as an entrepreneur or as an individual that, has worked for a company or as a partner, doctor, whatever. It's about long term. So what we'll talk about today is how do you get there? How do you stay there? How do you navigate? How do you pivot? What are the challenges? We'll talk about that. So let's move to the next slide. So the next slides are going to deal a little bit, and then the next one as well. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of just, my history. I have some pictures there. I want to personalize it a little bit so you'll see my family in the next slide, please. Yep, so this is my clan, right? So this is my why. So on the left side, right, that's my daughter. She works for KPMG. She's wearing her hat, right? So that's Sela, right? So I always wanted to be a girl dad. So when I had Joshua and Caleb, I felt like the destiny is not complete. We need a girl, right? In my family, my mother has brothers and sisters, but surprisingly, they were all having boys. So when I got my 2 boys, loved them, but I'm like, I need that girl. So Josh is 10, Caleb is 8. So we went again. I told Nana, God is telling me, and Nana is my wife, my beautiful wife in the middle. I said, God is telling us we need to try again. So we tried again. Yes. Was that? Yes, thank you. So Reverend Mark was part of that journey. He knew how much I wanted the girl. He already had his girls, so I was a bit jealous, right? So I was like, no, I need the girls as well. So that is Sela, and that's my father-in-law in the picture with us, Mr. Jehu. He's been very instrumental in my life, great entrepreneur. I've really learned a lot from him. Every time I talk to him, there's so much I learn. In the construction business, in real estate, he's taught me a lot. I'll bring some of those lessons here as well. Because the goal is to succeed in whatever you do, whether you go at it as an entrepreneur or whether you go at it, right, working for somebody else or doing your own thing. And of course, Josh and Caleb. So my house is very noisy. We have a very noisy house. Right? I brought them here today because I was afraid if I leave them at home, they'll be shouting at each other. So I'm like, you're going to come here, you're going to see what daddy does, and you're going to start your career early. The goal is I need them to graduate and move out of the house fast. So it's good that they're here. Anyway, okay, so let's jump into it. Let's talk about the current challenges. And I'm going to, maybe let me share my story and then we continue. So I grew up in Ghana, okay? From age 0 to 18, all of it was Ghana. That's where I met Reverend Mark. And Ghana, growing up, I was addicted to video games, like serious addiction to video games. I spent a lot of time playing Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I wasn't as intentional. I mentioned that at the beginning. But somewhere in that journey, I started to get serious, right? And it's those lessons that I want us to talk about. I moved to the United States when I was 18 in 2001. When I got here, 4 years later, four days later, we had 9/11. Right, so it was really at a time where there was a lot of disruption in the economy. I'm a student. I went to Luther College, Decorah, Iowa. I came in as an economics major. That was the plan because I like demand, supply, all of those things. That was the interest, right? I had to pivot, and we'll talk about pivoting, right? Because the only constant in the world we live in now, especially, is that things are going to keep changing, and you have to pivot. You have to stay relevant. You could be relevant today, next year, you're totally irrelevant. So went to Luther College, 4 years at Luther. At a point, I'm like, I need an internship. I have a whole story around that, how I started my internship at Deloitte. And then did Deloitte, started my full-time job at Deloitte, got to a period, 2009, where there was a lot of job instability. So if you remember, 2009 was the start of the subprime mortgage, for those of you that remember that. And everybody was firing everybody. So that was an interesting time, lots of lessons from that. So I left Deloitte, went to Excel Energy. We should all know Excel Energy. It's where we get electricity, right? So went to Excel Energy for 2 years, did that for a little bit, and then I was going back to Deloitte, but ended up at KPMG. And there's a why KPMG at that point versus going back to Deloitte. All of these are part of the story and the pivots that I want to talk about. All right, so let's move to the next slide. All right, so what are the challenges that we're facing now? Remember, let's define career success. It's not just about getting a job. It's about getting a job, maintaining the job all the way to the end of your life, right? It's about having a why behind it and staying consistent. Nowadays, the dominant discussions I'm in with even people who used to be my clients is people are looking for jobs. The layoffs are happening. They're very silent. You don't even hear about it. Occasionally, yes, they have to put out a warn notice to say we're firing maybe 500 people, but there's a lot of job instability. So the first piece I put there is a college degree is no longer a guaranteed passport to the middle class. It's not. So with what I do at KPMG, we spend a lot of time on campus. And at first, if I go back 6-7 years ago, almost every Friday we were on campus. We were on campus meeting students, listening to their stories, trying to recruit them. But right now, the story has changed. Right now, it's not as easy to get a job. We used to recruit in Minneapolis alone, and Minneapolis is not an extremely big KPMG office, but in Minneapolis alone, we used to maybe have 70 people in a class at a time, 70 to 80. Right now, I don't know if we're even reaching 20 as a starting class, right? And even those who intern with us, it used to be a guaranteed offer. If you interned, you were in. Oh, now it's not like that. The intern is just the beginning. That is your real interview. That is where we evaluate you, right? So the first challenge here, right, is that it's not enough to have a college degree, right? From a Forbes article, employers now expect graduates to have work experience. Your first entry-level job, we expect you to have work experience. I'm going to take it even further. When I interview people for internships now, we look for whether you've done an internship before. That's wild, because this is someone who is in their third year, right, the summer before they go to their senior year. And we're looking at your resume saying, do you have experience? Which means you should have interned in the summer of your sophomore year or immediately after your first year, right? So we're looking for that experience. The message in that first bullet point is the game is getting harder. So you need to be more intentional and more strategic. It's not just going to happen. Let's talk about the second one, the global talent pool, right? So at first, or at least when I graduated in 2005, if I was interviewing for a job, the job was just posted in Minneapolis. Well, now it doesn't work like that. We post jobs globally. We say, you know what, we're going to start in Minneapolis, then Chicago, then nationally, and if we can't find it, we're going to find it in India, or we're going to find it in China, or somewhere else. And the value proposition, right, I kind of captured it there, for recruiting overseas, it's real. So let me tell you how in consulting we make money. We go out and we sign a contract, okay? And when we sign that contract, let's say we've signed a contract, let's make it simple. It's a $100,000 contract. That's what the client is going to pay. If I use U.S. resources to deliver that work, a U.S. resource needs a 401k plan. A U.S. resource needs a high salary. A U.S. resource has all these demands. They can sue you. It's long, okay? If you can find somebody in India to do that same work, then we work on margins. Your revenue coming in minus your expense is equal to your margin to simplify it. I make more money when I use resources overseas. So if you're coming out of college, you are competing with a global workforce, right? At this point, at least at KPMG, 60% of the work we do, 50 to 60, is done overseas. I need less people. We know right now, between KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, all these consulting companies, we are overstaffed. The goal is to take things offshore, and it's not slowing down, right? And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I think these things are important so that as you navigate your career path, you know exactly what you're up against. The other thing is automation and AI disruption. This is a big one. So when I started my career, I learned a system called Oracle ERP, right? So Oracle is used by many companies. It's a software company. And I studied a piece of it called J.D. Edwards. And I was really good at it. It was very technical, and a lot of people didn't understand. So I went deep. You know, Mark talked a little bit. I'm in now. Like, if there's a problem and we can't find a solution, I can't sleep. I'm serious. I can't sleep. I'll get up and I'll get on the phone, or I have to find the answer. So that led me to J.D. Edwards, and I learned it very quickly. And I enjoyed it, and I loved it. So I talked about my career journey, right, where I had to leave Excel Energy at a point, and I was going back to Deloitte where I started. But I decided that I was going to go to KPMG. Why? Because at KPMG, they didn't have that skill set, that J.D. Edwards skill set. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm 4 or 5 years into my career. I want to get to the top, right? Sylvia made a good point, right, about, you know, being intentional, this humble humility thing. I wanted to get to the top, okay? You have to want to get to the top. It's a competitive sport. Yes, I love Jesus, but I also need money, right? So I really wanted to get to the top, so I went to KPMG, and the goal was to make partner as quickly as possible. And I knew that there were no black partners there. So I was like, okay, well, then you can be the first. You know, I grew up in a house where my mom is very influential in my life, and she told me, look, we're not going to feel sorry for you in this house. So in my house, if you went to school and somebody beat you up and you came back and you told Auntie Sophie, my mother, she'll just tell you, well, why didn't you fight back? So I grew up with that mentality. So where I'm going with that story, right, it was that when I started, that technical skill set in J.D. Edwards made me relevant at KPMG. It made me super relevant because a lot of people didn't have it. And as a young kid, probably 20-something at that point, it was great to know that. Well, right now, that skill set is not very relevant. And that goes back to your automation and AI. One day I got a call and they said, Kweku, we need to download what is in your head on J.D. Edwards so that we can automate it. So what AI is doing now, right, to bring it into reality is at first, we would go to a client, they have this ERP, we bring all their security documentation out, and then we create a strategy. It was all in my head. And I wasn't sharing it because I'm like, this is why I'm here. If I put all this out, it's gone. When we sat down and I was talking to them, they were recording everything I was saying, and then they started to build the bot, and they started to build the automation. Now, I don't get on calls when we get those jobs anymore. It's done in seconds. That is what AI is doing in the workplace. Things that you need to sit down, even creating work papers. You have a meeting with a client. Let's look at it at the base level. Copilot, all these things. It's able to summarize, write the next steps, take it, put it in our tools. It's amazing. So now we're going to clients saying, look, you know what? We used to charge you $100,000. Now we're going to do it for $80,000. But my margin has quadrupled. Because I'm not using people like Kweku anymore. I'm using systems. I'm using automation. Routine activities are now done with automation. A tech CEO on CNN, this was about 3 weeks ago, half of entry-level jobs will be eliminated in the next 5 years. It is absolutely true. I think it's in the next 2 years. This stuff is real. And it's real because when you think of all of these companies, OpenAI, you have companies like KPMG, like Microsoft, all of these companies signing separate contracts with them to build AI specific for their environment. It's not just AI, the ChatGPT. That's the beginning basics. They're building AI. We as a firm, KPMG, we have $1 billion investment in AI. Folks are concerned, right? Again, not to scare you, but the reality, right? That a lot of jobs are going to be gone, you know. So something to note. And then last but not the least, the burst of the COVID bubble, part of the challenge. So what happened during COVID? So during COVID, there was a lot of PPP loans. Who remembers that? Paycheck Protection Program. Everybody could go get a loan. You wake up, you check your bank account, and if you are lucky, you've got some money from your tax return. There was just a lot of free money, low interest rates. So a lot of my clients, what they did is they got loans, or they got these PPP loans, whatever, at very low interest rates. And then there was an artificial demand because people had cash. So it led to an excessive amount of hiring. People would go out there and hire. Facebook, I think, went from maybe 50,000 employees to 10,000 more than what they had. There was just an explosion in hiring. But when you look at how much more productivity or how much more supply was out there, it didn't match. So a lot of companies kept hiring. Well, that's part of the challenge now. Companies are now letting go of that extra fat because that demand was not real. It was propped up by the government. It was propped up by cheap loans, and now interest rates are much higher, right? So that's kind of the world we're in right now. So the takeaway from this slide is that there are definitely challenges on the horizon, right? But it's not the end of the world. So now let's start to get into what can you do? What are the things we need to think about? How do you navigate this complicated environment so that you can be successful, whether as an entrepreneur or as someone who is part of a company? So let's start. So let's overcome the challenge. Let's move into the next slide. The first one here is be selective or be strategic in selecting your major. Not all majors are created equal. Again, I said I was going to be very real with you. I've told my kids, when you get to college, it's not every major I'm going to pay for. If you select certain majors, you're on your own. Because the truth of the matter is that there are majors that give you your return on investment ASAP. So I shared a little bit about when I came to school here. I came as an economics major. I loved economics at that time. At Achimota School, which is the high school Reverend Mark and I went to, I loved it. We had a teacher called Aquatics, and he just made it amazing. Demand, supply, I loved it so much, right? But at the end of the day, I got here, and by the grace of God, I started doing research. Luther is a small school in Decorah, Iowa. It's about 3 hours from here. So it's not a big Ivy League where there's a lot of recruiting. But I think at that time, about 70% of students got jobs. So I went to the career services and said, hey, so this 70% getting jobs, how many are economics majors? Crickets. Silence. I wasn't hearing anything. Well, who are getting these jobs? None of them were economics majors. Most economic majors either had to go get a master's, they had to continue. And remember, I talked about I want to make money, right? I was never shy about what I was trying to do. I had to make money fast. Because one of the things that I was passionate about at that time, I didn't have my kids, but I wanted to give back to my parents. It was important to me. I had a burning thing in me to take care of my parents before I didn't have them anymore. And it was a burden. I was like, man, to do that, you need to make the money fast. So changing my major, I didn't care. A lot of us would say, well, I have to feel the major. I need, what do you mean you need, do you know what it's like if you don't have money? Right? Passion is important, but you need to be able to have money. It's a hard world out there. If you feel it's hard now, wait till there are the kids and there's the house and there's the mortgage. It's wild. It can overwhelm you. So I tell people, start with a major that will give you the highest return on your investment. And for me, I had to pivot. So I found out that there was a major called accounting. Let's be honest, I didn't know anything about accounting at that time. I told you I came from video games. You don't do video games in accounting, right? So I learned a bit about it, and then I enrolled in the class. It was just, hey, let's go. So I just enrolled in the class, started doing accounting, and then they're like, well, if you add IT to it, Kweku, you become very powerful. If you can do accounting and IT, a lot of people weren't doing that at that time. So then I added IT to it, management information systems, right? In those classes, there was a lot of coding, some Java, and I didn't really care for it, but the point is that start with the end in mind. It will pay off. And I want to really set your mind to things that pay off. Start with the end in mind. What are you really looking for in your career? What are the goals? What is your why? My why was giving back, taking care of my parents, making sure they saw the return on their investment. What is your why? And it has to be strong. It can't be something that, it's your why today and then tomorrow it's gone. It has to be strong. Reverend Mark's why, he said it. He wanted to serve God. He's been super consistent. That why always brings him back. You have to have a reason why you're being intentional about your career, okay? So that was part of it for me, right? And then college is expensive. Like when I was at Luther, Mark, do you remember how much I was paying? I think it was like $5,000 a year. I kid you not. Like it was cheap. And they were just throwing out scholarships. So I could work on campus, and whatever my parents supported me with was enough to pay for the year. Well, now it's not like that. Most of the people, Luther is now 55 to 60,000. Most of the people I work with, and we are in our early 40s, are still paying off debt. I spoke to someone who was in his 60s, and he's still paying off his college loan. College is not just for the experience. It is expensive. So please make sure you take a strategic mindset to it. And like I said, you can always pivot. I was in my office a few weeks ago, and a lady had reached out to me on LinkedIn. She said, Kweku, I'm joining KPMG, and when I come there, I want us to meet. I was like, yeah, sure. So she comes, and then she walks into my office, and she starts to talk to me about kind of her, kind of what led her here. I was like, well, I could see that she was much older than the other people, right? And I was like, well, so what did you start with? And she said, yeah, she started with education. And she worked for the U of M. She worked in Washington, D.C. for a school. I was like, okay, so why did you switch? She's like, the money was not enough. Straight up, the money was not enough. There's a cap to what you can make with certain degrees. You have to factor that into your goals. Because obviously her goals were much bigger. She was originally from China. She had big plans. She had big dreams. Most of us as immigrants, right, you're doing things here, but we're also doing things in Ghana. So the dreams are a lot. You need extra. So if you need extra, go to where the extra is. Your major determines your internship access. So KPMG, we are consulting, tax advisory, audit services. The majors we care about is accounting, computer science, MIS, and we're big companies, right? So there's E&Y, all of us. These majors, you have more of a supply to get jobs in. That is important. It is absolutely important. And the internships start early. There are some degrees where internships don't start until you are in your junior year that summer. With us, it can start in freshman year. They've started freshman year job shadowing programs where they fly people. So be intentional, please, about the majors. Because the world is only going to get more complicated. It's going to get harder to get jobs. A college degree is not just a college degree. It really matters, okay, what you go for. And again, it's a competitive environment. A lot of recent graduates do not have jobs. I hired a guy called Gabriel. I hired him about 4 months ago. So when we did the interview, I needed one person, and we interviewed, I think, like 10 people. So Gabriel lives in Maryland, and he was the best among them. And I was like, so Gabriel, if I give you this job, I know you're in Maryland, are you going to come? Will you come? And I could see on his face, he was concerned about leaving Maryland and coming to Minnesota. But he didn't have a choice. The job market is rough. He took the offer faster than I could envision. The point is that if we go back 10 years ago, I'm not getting the Gabriel in Minneapolis. People are not moving from sunny states to come and live here. Today, they are. The more important question is, in the past, I wouldn't even hire Gabriel. He wouldn't be in my hiring pool. Because in Minnesota alone would be where I would look. But again, back to the global way we're doing things. We're hiring from wherever, okay? So the takeaway from this slide is, please, select your majors wisely. You don't have to like the major. The question is, where will it take you? And remember, life is long. I remember when I was your age or even in early 20s, it's just you wake up one day and you've grown up. But the truth is you can always change your major. Once you have enough resources, you can go back to school. But now you're starting out, right? And I'm sure most of us as immigrants, you have that same passion to have your parents see you succeed. Start strong. It gives peace to your parents. It makes them feel like, oh, I'm going to speak a little bit of truth. It means my son or my daughter has done well. That is important, right? So I think these things are important, okay? All right, let's go to the next one. So here, we're going to talk a little bit about overcoming imposter syndrome and building career confidence, right? So when I sit on panels, one of the questions I get a lot, right, from different people is, how do you overcome imposter syndrome, Kweku? And this is important. Imposter syndrome is that feeling that you're not enough. It's often from a place of fear. It's from a place where you walk into the room and you're the only black person. Most of the rooms I walk into, 95% of the time, I'm the only black person. Maybe even 99% of the time. It's strange to me when I walk into a room and I see another black person. I'm like, what is this guy doing here? So it's just how it is, right? There isn't too much of us. And My group in Minneapolis is probably one of the most diverse groups because I had to be intentional, right? Like Gabriel is from Nigeria. I have Ashe, I have Kojo, I have a whole bunch of people, but I had to be intentional because we don't have enough of us, right? So imposter syndrome is just this feeling of I'm not enough. And a lot of people feel that. You will feel it when you go to recruiting events as a student, right? The speaker speaks, and then after that, everybody is going there, shaking their hands, and in every class, maybe there are a bunch of students that are straight A, 4.0 GPA, and you are at 3.7, so the 4.0 looks all confident, and you might not, and you don't want to interact, all of that. That feeling is normal, but I want to talk about how you overcome it, because you have to overcome it. And the other thing is the feeling of, can I really do this? I'm not enough. It doesn't end with just college. You feel it. Even when sometimes you're walking up here, part of you is, hey, what if I go and I don't know what I'm going to talk about, right? You feel it, but there are tools to overcome when you feel you're not ready to network, you're not ready to take that job, you're not ready for that interview. And I want to talk a little bit about that, right? So the first thing is, how do you see yourself, right? We're in church today. But even beyond the fact that we're in church, you have to understand that you have value. Each of us has value. How you see yourself eventually is how we'll see you. When I do interviews, I have to be honest, and I have to confess this. I do a lot of interviews. The first 2 minutes, I've made a decision. The rest is just, we're going through the motions. The first 2 minutes, you walk in there, there's some funny eye contact, you are shy, I'm like, it won't work. Because I'm envisioning you coming into the company and will you succeed here? And how you see yourself, it comes off in the body language. It doesn't mean you know everything. But you have to understand that you're made in God's image. You're a child of God. You believe, you belong, right? That you're not here by accident. I think it starts there, right? And then the rest of it is that confidence, right? It's not something that you're naturally born with, right? A couple of, when I was much younger, I can't imagine standing here. But you just have to believe that, look, when you get there, God will give you the right thing to say. And you have to start preparing, putting time into it, okay? You build confidence through preparation and progress, like coming here, right? Because now you see someone who has a similar story like you. When we came here, we have very strong accents. I still have my accent. I still get that question. I'm going to digress for a second. I like to digress. When the president asked the Liberian president, you speak very nice English, I was like, wow, I get that a lot. Kweku, where did you learn to speak English? You speak very nice English. You will get that. You will get that a lot, right? All of these things, right, are there, are accents, but it doesn't belittle you in any way. It's here. The battle is here. You need to win the mind game first. And you win that through prayer and through preparation. So confidence grows from competence, and competence comes from doing. Doing what is the next question. So you have to first identify what you are getting into. So let's say you're going to do an interview, and I'll use myself as an example. When I was at Luther College, we were getting into interviews, and that was the first time I was looking for an internship. It was the summer of my junior year, going to the senior year, and I went for the first interview. Oh, it was bad. So the problem is you are very bad at interviewing. Well, why am I so bad at interviewing at the beginning? Well, it's because I haven't interviewed before, and I didn't put a lot of time into it. So what did I do? We got a camera. We got people who would interview me, real interviews. We would sit down, they'll film it, I'll answer, we'll watch it. Does it look good? No, you shouldn't have said this. You are putting time into your craft. You need to put time into your craft. You can't pray away some of these things. The prayer will give you the confidence to work at it, but you need to work at it. You can't use spirituality as a crutch and not really do what you have to do, okay? So make sure that you're preparing. So eventually I kept interviewing in the preparation. And it was being filmed. And then finally I got better. Then I'll tell you where those interviews led to. So I said Luther was in Decorah, Iowa, a small town. And in that small town, we didn't have big companies recruiting from there at that time. So I interviewed with a couple of people, small companies. All of them were local companies. And then one day, I was sitting, I didn't get any offers, but I was sitting there, and I was tight on cash. I remember that day very well. The cash was tight. So then I checked my email, and this is a turning point for me. And I have an email from Deloitte. And it's from a woman called Amy Hauser. I don't think I'll ever forget that name. It's from Amy Hauser. And she says, Kweku, this is Amy from Deloitte. We've heard about your excellent credentials, and we would like to meet with you. I never applied to Deloitte. So then I asked myself, well, where did that come from? One, the grace of God. Two, the intentionality of starting to interview. I was preparing, so even though somebody didn't hire me, they took my name to Deloitte. And that was the start of the journey. So I remember going back to my professor, Mona Nelson, at Luther College. And at that time, because the big companies weren't recruiting from there, she's like, Kweku, how did you make the connection? And I said, Mona, I don't know. But now that I've grown, I think I know. It's the grace of God, and it's the preparation. From this slide, what I want you to take away from it is you need to work at it. Prepare. Sylvia talked a lot about networking. When you're going, prepare. Be ready for the discussion. Practice. And practicing, put a goal in front of what you're trying to do. You want a job with a Big Four, as an example. Go on LinkedIn. Start sending messages to people at the Big Four. There's some individuals that I've met in my journey. All they did was LinkedIn. They kept responding to their own email. I wasn't responding at the beginning, but they kept sending a follow-up. And then one day, I'm like, I'm tired. This person is not going to stop. Like, they're pursuing you aggressively. And then I'll respond. And then it will start a discussion. So please prepare. And when we get into the questions, you can ask more questions about it, because I think, it's an important piece. I have down there, what can I learn or practice today that will make me 1% stronger tomorrow? And I have this word there, stumble through. So when we're going to, in my job, part of my job is bringing in new work, going for new clients, right? So when I'm going for new clients, let's say Microsoft says, we need somebody to come in to do some consulting work for $1 million, okay? Then KPMG has to submit a bid. We submit a bid, and then after that, if they like your bid, they will invite 3 or 4 companies to oral. So we go, we sit at a table, they walk in, they say, okay, Kweku, why should we go with KPMG? You have 30 minutes, 1 hour, present your team, and then, we'll get into questions and answers and, all of that stuff. So the preparation for it is called the stumble through. And the word that's important is stumble. Stumble. So yesterday I had a stumble through for another client we are pursuing. Do you know what stumble through means? It means that we are going to make all the mistakes we need to make so that we don't make it in front of the client. That's the practice I'm talking about. We know that in 2 weeks we have to be in front of the client. By the time we get there, we can't make those mistakes. But we call it stumble through, and these are professionals. Some of the people on my team have more experience than me, over 20 years, and they're doing stumble throughs. And I watch even executives make mistakes. I was in New York 2 weeks ago, and in the stumble through for Allianz, it's a client in Minneapolis, somebody was so bad that we had to take him off the team. I'm sharing this because it's okay to stumble through it until you get good. It's the stumble through it that builds confidence. It's the preparation, repetition. It builds confidence. So if you are not ready, start practicing today. All right? Let's move to the next one. Next slide. Okay. Now we're going to talk about relationship building. It's essential to your career success. So back to the fact that in the past, you went to school, you were guaranteed internships, you were guaranteed job opportunities. Now it's about relationship building. That is really the name of the game. If you take nothing away from what Sylvia has talked about, what I've talked about, I think this is one of the most essential aspects. I got a call from one of our partners, and he said, Kweku, you're about to interview a bunch of people for internships. You will see one of them's last name matches my name. That's the one that, Kweku, you should be thinking about as you go through the process. Okay? So if I have one spot, it's already locked down. Right? Relationships. I talked about us chasing work. There are some bids I don't even submit a proposal for. If I hear about an opportunity at a company, and the first time I heard of it is when they put out the bid, I'm not going to submit a proposal. It's a waste of my time. Because if I haven't heard about it, it means I'm not in the inside. You want to get into the inside. Relationships help you to skip the line. Life is about skipping the line to get fast. When I need certain things, I'm going straight to Pastor Mark, right? Because he will help me skip the line. He needs certain things. He's coming to me. It's about skipping the line. Relationships help you to skip the line. Now, I know, when we are kids, they tell us don't skip the line, but sometimes you have to skip the line, right? So you need those relationships. The relationships, like we've had bids where the person submitting the bid from the client will tell me, Kweku, you know this is yours, but you just got to come straight with the price. So we go through the whole process. We submit a bid. We go and sit there. We say this is the team. And other people are bidding, but I know we've won it already. You got to think of your career like that. The relationship helps you to get to the front. So I want to talk about value-based relationships, right? And as a student, you might be asking yourself, well, I'm a student. What's my value? How do I approach someone who's at a company and talk to them? So I'm going to share times where I felt like the people I talked to really brought value to the table as students or as people who they are not yet in the workforce. Let's put it like that. They are not yet in the workforce. So if you're not in the workforce, how do you build a relationship with someone who's there? What are you going to talk about? The most interesting discussions I've had with students is when they start with their story. Just talk about who you are. I spoke to a lady who grew up in China and in Vietnam, and she was just, when she spoke to me, she started straight with her major. And I'm like, that's how everybody starts. Your major, like, look, what's your story? Tell me your story. And as she continued to talk about her history, where she grew up, the kind of family she grew up in, she could see that I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this. Because it's becoming personal. Relationships have to be personal. And the truth is, most people actually want to help you. Right? There's a misconception that, most people are not there to help. I think that's wrong. I think leaders, irrespective of race, good leaders want to help you. They want to be able to add to your story. But you need to bring your authentic self, right, to this discussion. So if you're a student, showing a willingness to learn. The interns that get offers from us, when they come in, or those that actually get the job, is the questions that they ask me at the end of the interview. They will ask some question where I'm like, wow, I don't even know the answer to this. One person asked me, so Kweku, KPMG invested blah, 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 blah in this. What was the strategic move that you guys were trying to make? Why? And I'm like, oh, I don't even know the answer to that. So I have to put it somewhere. But that tells me that this is a curious mind. Or them just asking, how did you get here in your career? Right? One person I met him during a networking thing, and he's like, I just want you to download your brain for me. I know that in meeting with you, you can share things. And most people want to share things. That's the thing. Like, we always think, oh, he's not going to look at me, or he's not going to value the discussion with me. Yes, people are busy, but if you pursue enough, most people will talk to you. And most people will share things with you, right? So relationship building is really important. I'll share a couple of stories for myself around relationship building. So there was a lady at KPMG who was the best at selling. And in my line of work, you have to learn to sell. In any business, ladies and gentlemen, you have to learn to sell. And selling is another word for building relationships, right? Because companies need revenue. You have to have a way to bring it in. And there was a lady called Jill, and she was so good at it. Jill was great. Today, she's meeting with the CEO of this. She's meeting with the CIO here. She's meeting with this. And I went over to Jill, and I said, Jill, I need you to take me to these meetings. At that time, I wasn't a partner yet. And she said, yeah, sure, Kweku, I'll take you. And then she wouldn't take me. But that didn't deter me. I'd ask again. I asked Jill, I think, 10 times before I got invited to one of her meetings with the clients. And I learned something very powerful about relationship building from one meeting. This was in North Dakota. So in North Dakota, Jill takes me to the meeting. We're sitting there, and I listened to her talk, to the client. He was the CFO of a healthcare company. And ladies and gentlemen, they didn't talk about work. I want that to sink in. They didn't talk about work. Jill had the highest numbers in KPMG. They didn't talk about work. They talked about what their kids are doing. They talked about how they are feeling. Talked about the gym. Talked about everything but work. The work part of it came up in the last 3 minutes as we were finishing our dessert. And I learned a valuable lesson about relationships. Bring yourself. And I know sometimes as minorities, it's like, well, we're from Ghana, our story is not interesting. Look, all of that is noise. It's noise. You have to believe that what you bring to the table is essential because relationships are personal. I will hire you not just because you have qualifications, but because I like you, right? I'm always trying to work for people to like me so that I can win the work. Because if they like me now, we're dealing with emotions. And in emotions, it's not as rational because I can't say that KPMG has the best this when we have other competitors and I don't know. But if they like me more than you, then I'm in. And you'd rather win in your career with that relationship building likability factor. But you also have to then sow the seeds of it. You can't be fake. Sylvia hit on that. You can't just come in, because if you're fake, I talked about body language, it will show through. You have to be authentic. Authentic means you're being real. You have to be real. Sylvia, you talked about branding too, huge in relationship building. So for me, when I think about what do I want my clients to think about me? I want them to feel like they can talk to me about anything. You see, because the way AI is changing the game, I feel like I can't keep running on this technical thing. I can't keep running on it. But if I can let them believe and trust me that even if Kweku doesn't have the answer, he'll find it for me. Kweku will genuinely listen, right? So I want to be known as someone who genuinely listens, who genuinely follows up. So for me to get a check on whether I'm doing that, I listen to what my clients talk to me about. And if they're talking to me more on the personal side, I feel like that's it. That's where I want to be with them. Because then I feel like it's working. Some of my bosses at KPMG, in the partnership, they are bosses too. It's not that you get there and then the whole company is yours. Some of my bosses there, all my discussions with them, they're in their 50s. It's about their struggles. The struggles they're dealing with, not related to work, right? But related to maybe raising their teenage son, or related to something else. And he knows. He'll tell me. One of them, he's called Rob Wolf. He's about to retire from KPMG. He's like, Kweku, when I have a problem, I can come to you. Because you have a way of looking at things that most Americans don't. Think about that for a second. It's because I grew up in Ghana. That's why. Because he'll tell me sometimes, I'll be like, Rob, these are white people's problems. This is not black people's problems. This is white people's problems. But for me to say that is because that's an area where I've tried to distinguish myself as part of my brand, that I want to go into the deeper things that matter beyond work. Okay? So in your relationship building, take a step back. What is your value proposition? It's not all about work. It's not all technical, right? Someone walked into my office this week. A gentleman, I didn't know him. Tall guy. He goes to school in Texas, and he's interning in our tax office, and he just did the tax practice. And he just knocked on my door, opened it, and walked in. He's like, "Hi, Kweku. I know you don't know me." And this is exactly it. "I know you don't know me. I've heard you're a great guy to meet, so I'm just here to meet you, And he just excitement. He did not come with any agenda, but that was great. And then he told me, "I grew up in Mauritius. I'm doing this. I might go to law school." Sometimes we overprice what the value proposition is. His excitement made me happy. So I won't forget that kid, because nobody has just walked into my office like that with that kind of excitement, right? You don't always have to have something to sell. And the art of listening, sometimes just listen, right? Some meetings and networks, it's your ability to listen, understand, and then ask questions on that. Please master the art of listening. When you are talking, you are not listening. Master the art of listening. And sometimes you say, "Yes, I'll get back to you," right? Sometimes you'll have an answer there, but bring your whole self in relationship building. Even if it doesn't work for person A, it might work for person B, right? So please bring that as well. And then LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a big piece of relationship building, in my opinion. I get messages all the time. I think you should use it because people use it to connect with other people. So please leverage it. And if you send, emails, or you try to connect with some people and they don't connect, it's okay. It's not personal. But use all the tools that are available to us, okay, as we try to do this. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So here I just wanted to talk a bit about the internships, being intentional about it. If you're not getting internships, when I look at a resume, I don't know whether it was paid or unpaid. What I'm looking for is experience, right, for those entering the job market. So don't underestimate volunteer work. If you can volunteer at a place where you do some accounting work, volunteer for it. Remember, the person doing the interview, we don't care if you were paid or not. We care about what you did there. Experience. And I think this experience, what you should take away from it is that now they're looking for experience while you're in college. If you're coming out of college with no experience, it's a pretty difficult situation, I have to say. But I want you to take away the fact that the experience doesn't have to be at a Microsoft or whatever. It can be through a volunteer opportunity. What matters is how you articulate what you did. Can you articulate what you did? Okay? So that's a key piece of it. Let's go to the next one. So now, I'm going to talk a little bit about advancement at the workplace. At the beginning, I talked about the fact that it's not enough to just get a job and you're working and then they let you go in 2-3 years and then you're done. No, it's about staying there. Sylvia did a great job on hitting a lot of that. So I'm going to talk about what it takes to really make it once you get into the game, right? Being nimble, understanding, and taking it from there. So let's move to, yep, we're there already. Okay. So when it comes to the workplace, right, throughout your life, you've worked hard. You've gone to school. And in college, it really is, to a large extent, a meritocracy, right? You work hard, you study hard, you have grades A, B, C, D. And then that's enough to determine how far you go, your GPA, all of that, right? So like KPMG, if you don't have a GPA in the threes, I think then you're not even on the list for recruiting, right? You got to have a certain minimum bar. Well, in the workplace, it's a little different, right? How it works in the workplace is you're coming in, first of all, with a group of pretty smart people. You have to understand that. You are not the only person who got the job. Other people came there with you. And since those other people came there with you, there's going to be a process of evaluating everybody. The ability to rise in a company is based on performance evaluations. What I think of you, right? So you might come in and, most immigrants, if you hit on this, right? Work hard, put your head down. No. You have to sell yourself. You have to create a perception that then becomes the reality of the value of the work you bring to the table because you're competing. You see, work is a pyramid. You start at the bottom, there are a lot more, but as we move up into our career, there are only so many spots. At companies like KPMG, you've got the partnership. This year, our class is going to be about 32 partners in audit. We have over 200, 300, maybe 400 people vying for 32 spots. It's not all going to be based on how good you are or how well your work speaks for itself. It's not always going to be that. So let's talk a little bit about what actually gets you ahead. It's still important to do hard work. I'm not saying that come in and your performance doesn't matter. Performance matters because if you are able to do what we give you to do, based on your major, while you're coming in, you're able to execute work, that's important. That's a starting point. But that's all it is. If you can't do the work, then the game is over, right? So you have to be able to do the basic performance, right? And then perception comes in. How others see you shapes your opportunity. I'll reframe that a bit. How those empower see you matters. How those empower. Because if you're working in KPMG as an example for a senior associate and he thinks you're doing a good job, but your managers don't think you're doing a good job, you've just missed the boat. And then powerful relationship. Who's speaking for you when you are not in the room? Most of the most important decisions about your career will be made when you're not in the room. Most of the important decisions will be made when you're not in the room. Promotion, your bonus, whether you make it all the way to the top. You're not in the room. You get notified if you made it or not, but you're not in the room when those decisions are being made. So let's talk a little bit about how this translates in the workplace in performance evaluations. And I just got out of a performance evaluation recently. So how it works is we go into the room. Let's say Sister Sylvia is responsible for the 3 individuals behind her, right? And then Emmanuel, you're responsible, Dr. Emmanuel, for the folks here. So when we go there, Sister Sylvia will say, hey, present the people that you're responsible for. And then you start the presentation. Gentlemen, what's your name? Jude? Yes, so she say, okay, Jude has been with us for 3 years. He's doing a great job. He shows up on time. He does all these great things, and as you're talking, in that room, there are also the powers that be who can say, yeah, he's doing a great job, but. Very strange, right? But. And sometimes it's people that you don't even work with. Right? He's doing a great job, but I really wish he showed up more. Very vague things like he showed up more where? In your house? Where do you want him? Where do you want him to show up more? Right? And what does that mean? Right? And then at that point, then, Sister Sylvia, based on the power you have to suppress that. But Jude, you have to give her a reason to suppress that. Let that sink in. Because now so let's say I said, yeah, but he doesn't show up enough. You could just be like, whatever, because maybe she doesn't want us to do back and forth. Most people don't like conflict. Give them a reason to fight for you. That's where I'm going with this. Give them a reason to fight for you. You have to give them a reason. So when I say that, he doesn't show up enough, if you've given her a reason, she's going to be like, what are you talking about? He shows up. He showed up here, 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 and here. And because I don't have examples, I can't come back. But did you give her a reason? And I'm going to talk about giving her a reason. You want to make her a sponsor and an advocate for you. It's not enough that she's just going to talk about you. She has to be willing to fight for you. So what are the things you need to do so people fight for you? So in my line of work, when you come to a KPMG and Ernst & Young PwC, you start as an associate, you become a senior associate, you become a manager. After that, it's all politics. After that, it's all about this stuff. You might get to manager maybe just on your hard work or luck or what, but beyond that, to director, managing director, it's all in this kind of discussion. So what are the things you have to do at the workplace to create sponsors? The first thing is performance currency. So if you look down there, going above and beyond. This is based on the work you do every day. See, at work, I'm always looking for the best seniors and associates. Do you know why? Because they allow me to spend time with my family. Because they do the work fast. They don't come and ask too many questions. They get things done quickly. Everybody gravitates towards them. If you're good at what you do, people will gravitate towards you. So put time into your craft and be good at it. That's the baseline. So for Sylvia to fight for Jude, you need to believe that he's going over, above, and beyond, and he makes your life easier. Because he works so hard, you are not on Saturday calls. Because if you screw up an engagement on Thursday, Saturday you're getting a call from the client saying Jude didn't show up. But now, because Jude is doing such a great job, maybe someone else did it last year and it was really bad, Jude came on, it's going well, now you want to fight for Jude. And that's your performance currency. You can't underestimate it. The next part is relationship currency. What we're talking about is having Sylvia fight for you. Right? Give her a reason. Make sure that you're investing in the relationship with her. I often tell people you need to learn to manage up. We always think of managing those that we report straight to us. You need to manage up. Managing up means you're building a relationship where even sometimes you are managing your boss's weaknesses. Yes, you have to identify your boss's weaknesses. If my boss is the kind of person who they're talking about this, then they're talking about this, then they're moving all over the place, give them a paper to take into the room. When you go, read this. I used to give it to one of my bosses. It's called I Love Me Memo. We call it I Love Me Memo because all you have to do is read it. Read it in the room. That these are all the things I've done. Because I couldn't trust that boss to go and talk well. So I'd give them the paper. When you go, this is what I did here, here, here. When they say this, say this. When they say this, say this. Manager. But all of that is based on the relationship. No boss is going to take your paper into the room and talk for you if you don't have a relationship with them. So the two things to create active sponsors are performance currency and relationship currency. That keeps you relevant at the workplace. It keeps you there long term. And it creates a situation where decisions are made about you based on emotion. And that's where I like to play. It's emotional. They are made about you based on emotion. So I remember sitting in a room one day in this kind of performance evaluation, and someone's name had come up, and we were doing all the rankings, and weird enough, all the people who were getting to the above category, so their category is well above, in line and below, and then well below. All the people who were getting into the well above were white males. So I'm sitting in the room, and then I raised my hand. I'm like, why are we giving all the top spots to white males? Can't we see there's a problem with that? I said that intentionally because my counselee, the Jew that I was responsible for, was a minority. Right there, it became an emotional discussion. My person went straight to the top. But she had to give me a reason to want to do that. Why will I put race into a discussion, which was valid at that time, if it's going to make people in there uncomfortable? Then maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot in my career progression as well. But give people a reason. Build the relationship. Look, work in many ways, there's a bit of a game to it. It's not just hard work. There's a bit of a game to it. There's a bit of relationship building. And I think as immigrants, we're actually positioned to do this well. We just sometimes don't believe that we're positioned to do this well. So we go there and we're like, I don't know how to do it. Look, just be yourself and get the mentoring, talk to people who have done it before, okay? Talk to people who have done it before. But I want you to take it away from here that, look, performance and relationship currency is important in succeeding in the workplace, staying there in the long term, okay? All right, I'm doing a quick check here on anything that I may have missed. A few things I'll touch on and then we can go to questions. So throughout my career, right, you have the first 9 to 5 when you go to work. What do you do with the other 9 to 5, right? When you're done with work, right, and you leave and you go home, what are you doing with your time? Video games, yes. I used to do video games, so I can understand that. That time is critical to performance currency. Look, a lot of times I'll have individuals come to my office, Kweku, I feel like they are not promoting me. How have you been here for this long? And then I'll ask them a basic question. What is our methodology around how we evaluate general IT controls? And you are fumbling that question at a manager level. Are you kidding me? It's not going to work. You have to put in the time. And yes, as a minority, you have to work twice as hard. Because at the beginning, like at KPMG, most of them went to school together. They know each other's parents. You don't have that. So you need to work harder to understand what it takes to thrive in that company. Know the basics. This is in the performance currency bucket. Don't just go to work and come home. When you come home, put in the time. I talked about J.D. Edwards. I put in hours to become an expert. So now at KPMG, if you mention J.D. Edwards, my name comes up every time. It doesn't matter whether we're in California. It's because I put in the time. It's because in my 20s, when others were sleeping, I was reading about J.D. Edwards. And I want to talk about taking chances, so I'll share another story. This piece is probably one of the most critical things I did in getting into the partnership. I talked about an inflection point for me where I started at Deloitte, then we hit the recession, okay? The economy was bad. Everybody was being fired left, right, center. And at that time, I'm on a work visa. So for me, I'm like, I can't get laid off. Otherwise, one-way trip to Ghana. So then I started to interview for jobs. And the recruiter told me, Kweku, at this point, nobody is hiring international students. But I had prayed. And I was like, you know what? Wrong recruiter. So I shut him down. And then I found another recruiter. And this lady believed in me. She was amazing. She was so amazing. She would ask me a question, I'll answer it. And she'll be like, well, what if you answer it this way? Or what if you answer it that way? What if you say it like this? Long story short, ladies and gentlemen, I ended up with 3 job offers. And Reverend Mark was part of this journey. 3 job offers in the middle of a recession where Americans were being laid off. I had Excel Energy, I had Amway Global in Michigan, and I had Ecolab. All of them solid guaranteed job offers. What was interesting is that Excel Energy said they weren't hiring international students for that position. Well, I wasn't an international student then, but I would need a visa. And Excel said they weren't hiring people who would need visas. It says there, if you need F1, H1, K, then don't apply. I was like, no, we have prayed to God, and we are applying. And when they interviewed me, I'm sitting in the room, and they're like, well, Kweku, you know we are not doing all these visa things, but you know what? We'll look at it. I ended up at Excel. So the God factor cannot be underestimated. Your confidence. I had enough confidence to apply for a job that I didn't qualify for, as an example. One other story. When I went back to KPMG after Excel Energy, well, not going back, but when I went to KPMG, this J.D. Edwards thing, I keep going back to it because what is your J.D.? For me, that was the skill that I mastered, the technical skill, my interest at that time. When I went to KPMG, we weren't doing work in that field. At this point, I was a senior associate, so still fairly young in my career, right? And I put it out there that, look, if anybody is going to a client to sell ERP security work with Oracle, please give me a call. At that time, I was, 29. That was a very bold move, but it's only God that gave me that idea. So then it went out to the entire national KPMG practice, and when it went out, they said, okay, now we have an ERP person, a J.D. Edwards person who can help us in this space. So then the call started to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I was scared. But what did I say about when you're scared? Start to prepare. So I called a company that had started to invest in the technology, in the security tool for the technology. And I told them that, hey, I'm a senior associate at KPMG, and senior associate is the second level, so I wasn't high enough in my career at that point. I'm a senior associate at KPMG. If you teach me how your tool works, then I would tell all my clients about you. We talk about value proposition, right? Sometimes we overthink it. The fact that I'm at KPMG, if I tell a vendor that I'll tell my clients about you, that's value. What else is value? They're trying to sell their tool. So then they said, Kweku, that's a very good idea. We will teach you how the tool works. This tool had just come out. So they did videos for me, step by step, how to implement their tool. And that started my journey to the partnership. Because now, when I go to a client to pitch, I pitched that video. I mastered the video, step by step in the video, okay? So this is just a few stories to encourage you, right? I just want us all to be encouraged. It's doable. You know, I know I hit on a lot of different things, but my goal here is that we all have the confidence. We have God with us. We can be intentional. Your performance is important. Be intentional and build the relationships. All right, thank you.
I think we need a part 2 of this, don't you think? And next time, I think you will come on time. Don't you think so? All right, we are about to do lunch, but before we do that, I think would allow you to ask 3 questions. Right, when we go to lunch, you can try and then maybe Kweku, you can try and get him to stay around a little bit. He's traveling. He's traveling today. You know, I'm very grateful that he decided that he would come do this. All right, questions. Okay, Kojo, come this way quickly. Oh, you need a mic because we are recording. Come. Oh, you have one. Okay. All right, cool.
I guess we're.
I think you are loud, but we can't hear you, even with a mic.
Oh,
yes,
hello.
sir.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay, for people who value like a strong work-life balance, you mentioned like for your after your 9 to 5, for your 5 to 9, you want people to kind of work harder behind the scenes. But I have mentors at my job that also told me after 5 o'clock you shouldn't be focused on work. So how does someone balance a strong work-life balance while also trying to learn more and improve in their company?
I think that's a very good question, and thanks for asking that. So life has seasons, right? So in my presentation, I tried to start from the beginning. A lot of that 5 to 9, there was no family, right? So if you think about the picture I had, it was non-existent in a lot of that 5 to 9, because it's fair at the point, right, as part of our Christian walk with Christ, we have to also take care of our families and we have to be available for them. But at that stage in my life where I was not married, where I go to work and come home and the option is Netflixing or video games, right, I spent a lot of that time between that 5 to 9 mastering what I had to do. And it doesn't have to necessarily be 5 to 9. It's about doing work outside of work. Because for me personally, and even now, it depends on the goal. There are just certain seasons you have to make sacrifices, right? Even if you have your family, right? There are just times that there are certain sacrifices that have to be made. You can't make them forever, but I do think that there are times where, let's say you pivot. You were a music major, now you've come into accounting, you are in your 30s, you have a family. Well, at work, you are competing with others who have been doing this since their 20s. So I would encourage that you spend some more time outside of work because of the career change. So it all goes back to the situation you're dealing with. and what it takes for you to be able to stand out, right? And then also the job you choose, because the work-life balance boils down to the work you choose. I must admit, KPMG consulting is not the most work-life balance friendly job. I picked that because the goals were big, right? So then I picked that. But there are other jobs that, are more laid back in nature. So I would say that you have to align your work. The more work-life balance you want, even at the beginning, then align it with a job that doesn't come with that kind of stress, right? Like the not-for-profits might not be as aggressive. They might not be working beyond 5, right? And you balance that out with your family. But it really boils down, in my mind, to the season and why you need to put in that extra work. If there's no reason to, then no, don't do it, right? And work-life balance is an interesting thing. It's always hard. It's hard for me sometimes because you're tired, right? But hopefully that answers your question.
Just to put this in here, there's a generation that seems to want to eat before their time, right? And the truth of the matter is that, if there's no sacrifice, you have no business enjoying. You have to sacrifice to be able to do certain things. You see, there's a statement that goes like this: play now and pay later, or pay now and play later. You get it? When you are building, you'd have to learn to do the foundation first. If you miss that period, I'm telling you, you build a very fancy structure is coming down. So please, a lot has been said, and what he said about, some jobs and all that. Listen, you are young. If your aim is to still live the status quo, then that's an advice for you. But I think he started off by telling you that it's nice to have money. It's nice to have money. If you don't know, you understand soon. You get it? So pay now. Pay the price. Could you pay the price now? Do the extra work. And a time will come, you'll be able to do all the vacations you like. But I think a generation has come now that wants to play now with passion and forget that there's a future. May God help us. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for your word, for all of your wisdom. It's very appreciated. My question is, going back to what you were saying about choosing a strategic major as somebody that wants to go back to school but has kind of a lot of interests or just certain things that they want to align their interests with. I guess, how would you, what are the first steps to trying to narrow down where your interests align with also trying to figure out, okay, this is a strategic major that's going to be able to, get you on the forefront, start strong as far as finances and everything like that?
That's a great question. I think a lot of that starts with research, right? So your interests, right? Now you made a good point. Aligning those interests, right, with a major that pays. So that comes from research. That comes from relationships, right? When I started my career, I didn't even know what you really do in the real world, right? It's always okay, if you're a doctor or if you're a medicine major, you're going to go do medicine. But do you really know what it means to do medicine? Or if you do accounting, you're going to go do accounting or IT. You don't really know until you get to the workplace. So I didn't even know what I would really like until I got in. So the way to bridge that gap is the relationship piece of talking to people in that field. And for that level, it doesn't have to be someone who's been in it for 20 years, 30 years. You can just start by networking with people who are already there. Walk me through what your day looks like. What are the things you do? Do you talk to clients? Is it more behind the desk? And then start with also what you like and line it up, right? But I think that it starts with that alignment. It starts with you talking to people who are there. Because there are people who always say, I wanted to do this. They get in and they're like, this is so different from what I thought. I thought working in coding meant we're always designing new this and that, and it's not that. You're just coding a small part, or maybe you're not coding at all with that major. But to bridge the gap, I would say connect with people who are already there so you can learn. And then keep the end goal in mind. Start with the end in mind, right? Align that passion. Don't let the passion take over. Especially if you're trying to play catch up to some extent. There's already been a major, and now you're coming back. I would weigh heavily towards employability, the ability to quickly finish and get a job, which markets are hot, and move there, right? And I've seen people make those decisions. The last person I spoke to who made that decision, she was 38, and she switched. And, she was like, at this point, it's just about marketability, being able to have a job and sustain it long term. So that would be my advice there, right? Do the research, talk to people who are there, and see if those majors are what you want. But make sure that you can get a job after. I think put that first, right? It has to lead to a job, right? It's not exploring at this point.
Great answers. Last question, and then we would transition.
So you talked a lot about the importance of like relationship. So my question for you is, how do we start building like one?
How do we?
Yeah, is there like a secret handshake, or do I have to get your phone number after this?
Yeah, so no, there isn't a secret handshake, but I think it goes back to authenticity. Why do you want to build a relationship, right? Go into places where you can meet people. And when you meet somebody, also just being authentic about understanding. I think I had a slide on the fact that you bring value to the table. You don't have to give me a deal for you to be valuable. Sometimes just asking questions, a genuine interest in how somebody got to where they got to is part of that discussion. So there's no secret handshake, but I would say it starts with events like this. You start going to a lot of events like this, you're broadening your network. You walk up to people, you meet them. I've met a lot of students through events like this at the U of M, at Mankato. For a lot of them, it started with events like this, right? And also using the connections that sometimes your parents, your pastors have, right? So if you went to your pastor, you went to Pastor Mark and said, hey, do you know anybody in this field? He's connected. Use that. Start where you are to make the connections. And remember, a referral is a powerful thing. So if you start where you are in groups like this, I'm sure we can get you connected to every major, somebody in that field, and they will make time to talk to you. So I think you're already, at the right place, right? We're not having this discussion at a place where you don't have access to professionals, right? We have doctors here, we have entrepreneurs here. You're already there. Just take advantage of it. And there's no silver bullet or golden bullet. Just start moving in that direction. Some of the things that have happened for me when I started, I didn't even know where it would go. But every day, one step at a time, and then eventually it works out.
Beautiful. I told ya. What do you guys think? Oh, come on. Let's give Anna to who Anna is doing. This is wonderful. Good stuff. And I have no problem saying that he's my brother. You see, there are some people, after they finish talking, you want to dissociate yourself as far as you can. But again, one thing for sure is that he's very humble. You won't even know what he does until you engage him. So please, I have the key. See me, and I'll connect you. I'm just joking. Baba. All right. I'm just joking. He loves to help, in these spaces, especially minorities. So people are leveraging it. We should leverage it as well. At this time, I'm so excited because we have a slew of very accomplished people in our midst. It saddens my heart. Tell them, I thought this place was going to be full. Kweku has just said it's intimate, but I'm not happy because I want every young person to hear this stuff. This is good and great stuff. Are you here with me? And so, if they are not, somebody who is not, tell them, listen, you better make it here at the quickest, possible route. I don't see you taking your phone. Tell them right now. And I mean everything I said, by the way. Kweku, Charlie, God bless you. What an honor. He shares these things, snippets with me, but it's good to hear it the way you've done it. I'm so proud of him. You have no idea. I tell people, look, I'm connected. I know people in high places. In fact, talking about what you just said, Sister Sylvia, I was spending my time in Amsterdam, Mr. Joe, making a case for a friend of mine to Ben. Why Ben should hire the person in higher upper management in his company. I spent about 30 minutes. He spoke with me an hour early, and then in Amsterdam, I had to connect again. Look, there is power in relationship. And this guy, I can put my hat on him and then sleep. I told Ben, I said, listen, if you want expertise, I'm not too sure about that. But if you want somebody that you can sleep at night, hire the guy. And if this role that you're hiring for, he's not the right person, I would advise you find a way to bring him into your leadership team. You will sleep at night. And trust me, I'm sure he will hire him. So I told him, the company owner, get to me after you interview him. That's how powerful relationships are. Somebody has his own company, and I'm dictating to him that he should come back to me when he's done. Don't joke with these things that you're hearing today. Okay, well, this time, I'm going to introduce the resource people amongst us so that as we are eating lunch, you can interact, and when we come back, we can actually get into some good stuff. Is it a good idea? Are you enjoying this thus far? Okay. All right, so let me see here. You know, this person, I can even, if a lot of them, I can just talk. I don't even know why I'm trying to find my notes. Okay, so some time ago, today, one of the things we've done this time is we have also somebody here, not in the formal sector, right? We wanted to also touch people that may not necessarily have the flair in academia, but are very gifted with their hands or something. So we have somebody in the trades here, and I'm proud of this guy because he came to my house to give me a key, right, to one of my cars. And as we were talking, in fact, long story short, I got to know him and I said, look, we need to do some things together. So, Muhammad Haji here is a locksmith. Of course, he's Muslim, but he's my friend. He's a locksmith who is doing very well. Look, the man shocked me when he told me how much potential there is in that space. And I've seen him work. You get it? I've seen him work. And as a matter of fact, we have a special proposition that we are still hoping we can find that one person we can help. So Muhammad here, I have registered a company, and Muhammad here is ready to train one person who can, let me just make sure I explain it well. Maybe you know somebody. The opportunity is that he's so busy, and he is on that side of town, Kun Rapids, the other side of town. There isn't anybody on the southwest side. So where I come from, that people laugh at me all the time. You know, Chaska, Eden Prairie, Victoria, that side. But he keeps getting clients who sometimes drive all the way to Kun Rapids. That's how good he is. So his discussion with me was, if I could set something up on this side of town, he will personally train somebody, right, as long as they need. Then when they finishes, I will then hire that person. The person can work for themselves, and I don't need this opportunity. But I think he convinced me. So I've registered a company, and I'm looking for that person. I've not found that person. It's shocking. It's you. Yeah. In fact, you should have done it when you're younger. Forget you. No. No, but it's about the money. No, but you see, I don't want to even give his trade secrets out. The amount of money he told me he mixed, Mr. J, we're just doing keys. Oh, Mr. Joe, maybe we have to talk. We wanted to even see how we can bring it to Ghana. Because it's amazing. The money in this area, the people are not tapping into, because all of us are thinking about school. All these things. But there are other areas that you'll be amazed how well. So he convinced me. The company is sitting there. We just not found the people now. Yeah, so he is our tradesman. When it's time, he'll be telling you some of the things that we can go to. And then I'm also very proud to introduce to you David Edinam. This man here, I have to be careful I don't give your secrets away. You know, one day, he has a lot of the things we are talking about. When people pivot and they try to find a way, he went through how do I say it? He did, 2 year. We did 2 year before. You did 2 year. Is it, am I right? Or yours is even informal? Your education. Formal. Was it 2 year? 4 years. You did 4 year. Okay. I don't know. I was thinking you did 2 years before. Anyway, so he's an IT consultant. He has his own gig going on. I remember when we had a discussion, he was thinking about doing a business to business. He's done a certain interesting thing that took him from where he was to a different level just in a short time. I'm coding things because I don't want to give anybody's, private thing away. But I'm telling you, he's a person to talk to. You are into IT. You could want to do your own thing on the side. This man has found a way to collect the business and hire people in India. So at any given time, he has about maybe 4 jobs going right at the same time. He has employees under him. He does business to business. That's one I'm proud of. I remember the discussion that led into this. He's another resource person. Of course, Sister Sylvia, young girls, young men. If you need somebody who can help you fine-tune yourself to do well in corporate America, I will highly recommend her. You get it? So she's a leader in healthcare insurance, if you will, and other things. Again, we don't talk about companies here, but yeah, she's also a resource person. And And then one of the people that I'm always proud of, that makes me feel good all the time, is this one I'm talking about. Dr. Emmanuel is a trained, when we're growing up, remember when people come and they tell us they're aeronautic engineers, we are like, oh, wow, And for me, I tell people that I know one personally who is an aeronautic engineer. You see the way I'm even talking about it. This man has done so well in his career. He's a VP of a company now. Very humble. You see him around in church, you think, I know people, you see. I know people. You get it? So Dr. Emmanuel here is also a resource person. I'm very connected. I won't hide it. They told us we shouldn't, belittle ourselves. I will not hide. I'm very connected. Yeah. So Dr. Emmanuel here is also a resource person. Then, I've not been around here for too long, but there are some people that have just been endeared to. You get it? And, yesterday, our resource person for real estate and real estate investment, dropped the ball on us last minute. And I said, you know what? I got this because I'm connected. So I called this young man and I said, hey, I need you here. I need your expertise. So will you be able to do it for me? Overnight. It was around like 6 p.m. I had just woken up from my slumber and I made that call. And there he is now, So Rini will be our resource person in a real estate investment, part. There are some things that he's been teaching me and working on, because you have to keep learning. Hallelujah. Okay, you people, you have to help me because I get confused all the time. I'm not even going to try. Okay, so which one is who? Who is who? Vivian. And Vivian is the nurse. I got it. So Vivian, they are twins. If you don't see, they are twins, by the way. So Vivian is a nurse. I pastored most of these guys, just so you know. And Vivian is a nurse. I know her journey, how she was flexible enough to... you want them to read all them? Doc, let me just flow. I know them personally, so I can talk. Yeah, and I like her journey because she pivoted and even moved out of state to get her nursing license. You get it? And now she's practicing. These are accomplished people doing very well. And I'm proud to see them here today as a resource. So she'll be on the medical side when we get back from lunch. And then her sister, Victoria, is an IT person. You owe me a private meeting with my daughter, okay? Just letting you know. All right, so she's an IT person, done very well. She has a very unique initiative going on for girls, right? Girls into IT. And that's why I pitched my sale. All right, so when we get back, we hear more about them. And when they start talking, they can also introduce themselves. How can I forget him? And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also very excited about this person I'm about to introduce because this man was very intentional to get me to do something I wouldn't have done. So those times when I was pastoring, he would see me and say, he needs to come and see me. He needs to come and see me. And I'm like, what does this guy want to talk to me about? Eventually he got my attention. And he's a financial advisor. He's my financial advisor, personal financial advisor, that guy over there. Don't be deceived. Okay? And he's also very networked. So a lot of things I need in the entrepreneurial space, he will give me resources all the time, people I can talk to and all that. Very in tune with the times and, what to do with your money and all that. So I thought that, look, there's also an area of expertise that we need here. And so that's Richard D'Souza, my personal financial advisor. And those of you who are not here, I told you that God has really graced us today. We have also a very accomplished entrepreneur in our midst. Mr. Jehu is resident in Ghana. That's Kweku's father-in-law. Very astute businessman. I think my next trip, Daddy, I'm coming October. I beg you, the last week of October. When I come, I'll try and get on your calendar. I need to meet you one-on-one. This time it's not anything, not about Kweku. It is you and I, business talk. Okay, so Mr. J, when I gave you a question to ask him, what was the question? What advice would you give me as a young person, starting out life? Please ask that question. And if we have time, I probably will let him speak before you head out, if it's okay. I don't know if you're heading out now, but I'm trying to negotiate, you see. Yeah. All right. So, guys, God bless you. Food is ready. We'll just quickly eat lunch, probably 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes and we head back. Because you didn't come early. That's what the problem is now. All these people have lives, things going on. So, please, we'll grab lunch quickly, 30 minutes. We'll come back. Will you come back here? We'll come back here for a little bit, and then we'll continue downstairs at the point where the choir has to come and practice. Okay, so when we come back, we'll have one session per career. They'll give their little run. They have things they have to do, and then we'll keep going, okay, that way. Let me pray over the food, and then we can go down straight and eat. Father, we thank you for this time. Pray that you bless the food that has been prepared. We ask that you would make it nourishment alone and nothing less than that. It won't harm us. It will be good to us, and as we interact, help us ask intelligent questions and learn from each other. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Please, downstairs, straight down, lots of food, less people, so be happy. You can even take some home if you want to. God bless you.
Hello, can we get everyone from downstairs? Reverend Mark is coming. That means the program is starting. Can we get seated? Our resource persons are on time. Okay, are we ready to start? Manuel.
Quickly. What you are drinking is not more important than what you're about to hear. Put it somewhere and come. All right. Is there anybody down there that is not here? Guys, come up quickly. Come up quickly. No, leave me there. Wonderful. Listen, I watered down my introductions, but now I want to be disciplined. Okay. Now, Vivian Cherami is a registered nurse, specializes in oncology, hematology, and bone marrow transplant. It says, I started my career at Mayo Clinic Hospital and later worked at University of Minnesota Medical Center with adult hematology and oncology. Where are my nurses? Where is Baba? No. Tell her she should come now. This session is I have to see her here. You know, some people, I know them, so I'm trying to be very intentional in trying to point you to things that are important. Yeah, let her come immediately before I finish my introduction. She has to go, so please. And Kojo, you need to connect to Dr. Emmanuel by the quickest possible route. Okay. I'm still looking for you. I've not forgotten, just so you know. Is she coming? Baba, she has to hear this, please. We have to go. I have to move on. She's studying nursing, and I really need her to hear this. Only one here that. All right, Vivian, let me just do this so that you do a session. So, Vivian is, as we heard, a registered nurse specialized in oncology, hematology, and bone marrow transplant. Says, I started my career at Mayo Clinic Hospital and later worked at the University of Minnesota Medical Center. Baba. Okay, she's not serious. Mayo Clinic and later worked at University of Minnesota Medical Center with adult hematology and oncology patients. I'm currently an oncology nurse care coordinator at Minnesota Health Fairview, right? I hold both a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree and a Master's of Science in Nursing degree. And she did these things in record time. I am also, this is the part that excites me. I'm also an adjunct nursing instructor at University of Northwestern in St. Paul. I told you I'm networked. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sharing with you the R and Vivian Chairman, please. We are yours.
For these sessions, we'll have her introduce and tell us anything, and then we have some Q&A. So these are more just Q&A focused sessions. So just
Thank you, Pastor Mark, for the lovely introduction. So I'm Vivian. So I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing at a tiny school in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. It was about 45 minutes north of Columbus and then 45 minutes south of Cleveland, so like in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, so I got my bachelor's there, and then I came back and started as a registered nurse, just working in the hospital, working with adult bone marrow transplant, oncology, hematology patients. So oncology is working with cancer patients, so that's what I'm referring to. So we worked with a lot of patients who had like leukemia, lymphoma, those types of blood cancers. I did that, and then I also worked at the University of Minnesota Medical Center doing the same thing, because Rochester was boring, so I wanted to come back to the Twin Cities. So I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing 7 years ago in 2018, got my Master's of Science in Nursing in 2021, got married in 2021, had my baby in 2022, my second baby in 2023. Yes, now I'm chilling. So when Uncle Kweku was talking about sacrifices, like it made me think of like, because I graduated high school, went straight to college, did my master's, then got married, then had the babies and stuff. So it's like I sacrificed, all that time, and now I'm like I get to kind of relax a little bit. And so so now I work as an oncology nurse care coordinator at a local cancer clinic through mHealth Fairview. And I work with a specific oncologist, and we see all types of cancer patients like breast cancer, stomach cancer, colon, still blood cancers. And one thing I've noticed is that cancer sees no color, and we have a lot of patients who are African, Hmong, Hispanic, whites, and so I just feel privileged to care for those patients, and I feel like every day I'm going into work doing the Lord's work. And I truly can say that I love my job. Obviously, there's some stressors, but overall, I enjoy what I do. And in addition to that, I work as an adjunct clinical instructor or nursing instructor at the University of Northwestern in St. Paul. It's in Roseville, Minnesota, so that side of the cities, and it's a Christian-based university. They're really big in their faith and producing Christian-like nurses. And so I'm always promoting that school too, because obviously there's other nursing programs in the cities, but I'm biased and promote Northwestern. I'm really cool with the dean, so if you guys need a nursing program, let me know. The dean loves me. And so that's kind of like my journey. Yeah.
thank you very much. And you see, I like how you refer to Mr. Bank as Uncle Kweku. You see, when you're network, you just call out Uncle Kweku, Uncle Emmanuel. And yes, I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, they've known me and my sister since we were in middle school, so we can call them Uncle.
Cool. So at this point, just questions, please. I have some planted questions, but we don't want to go there. Just if you have any questions. Nursing track. I heard her whisper to someone, we have an accelerated track. So ask all the questions you want to ask. If you have a bachelor's already. So if you want that program, please.
Did you know you wanted to be a nurse right out of high school, or did you kind of have to explore a little bit?
No, so when we were in 8th grade, my mom put us in some volunteering summer program at United Hospital, and so with that we just served warm beverages to patients throughout the unit. So me and my sister did that all throughout middle and high school, each summer. And so that really sparked my interest because I love talking to people. I can't just sit in a desk. I need to interact with people. And so I knew that I wanted to do nursing. I didn't want to do medicine and none of that stuff. I knew I wanted to be a nurse since maybe middle school. But I also kind of had a plan B in case that didn't work out. But I knew I wanted to do something in the human services field, whether it was nursing or social work. But I knew I wanted to be a nurse out of high school. So. But in terms of which kind of nursing, I didn't know. That I
The
didn't know.
volunteering opportunities, right? Get out there.
Questions?
But it just, which, you know, where it comes from, down some of the myth that, you know, people just kind of have that stops them. Very noble professional, but it looks like people are not about it as they used to be. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the myths that's out
Yeah.
to this for younger people that are kind of looking at it, but are just
For sure. So I feel like with nursing, when people think of nursing, they think of just working in the hospital, working directly with patients. And those of you who've worked like, or either volunteered at a hospital or like visit a family member in the hospital, like you see a lot of the healthcare workers, you know, breaking their back. It's like heavy work. And so I feel like people, when they think of nursing, they think of that. And during COVID, it was even more heightened and intense with just staffing shortages. And so that really like steered people away from nursing, but people don't realize that nursing is so broad. Right now I work at the clinic. I used to work in the bedside, but now I don't. And so I feel like people don't realize the possibilities with the BSN or an MSN. You can do nursing informatics, so you can work with the EHR. Doing that and teaching people about the EHR, like Epic. You can become a nursing instructor. You can become a director of nursing. So nursing is very broad and diverse, but I feel like a lot of people just think of just the bedside, and so that kind of steers people away. But yeah, but everybody does have to start out on the bedside, though.
There you go.
Because one thing about nursing is that it's easy to get a job out of college, but to get to maybe a remote job, like you need experience working at the bedside, so you can't bypass that.
Hello. I'm also a nursing student. Could you also paint a picture of what nursing looks like after school? Because a lot of people in my cohort, like, they complain a lot and they say, like, even like other older graduates, they say like a lot of the stuff you do in nursing school is nothing like what you do like on the floor. So can you just like paint a picture of what that looks like?
Yeah, they are true to an extent. I feel like nursing school prepares you to pass the nursing board exam, and that's kind of about it. I feel like most of the learning does start when you're a new grad nurse. It really does depend on which unit you work at. Like, for example, if you get a job working labor delivery, that's very different than working on a general medical surgical floor. Same with like the ED or the ICU. So I would say overall nursing school does prepare you to be a general like nurse because you need to, you know, utilize your critical thinking skills no matter where you're at. You need to be quick with the EHR, and you do that in clinicals. You need to know how to interact with different healthcare professionals, whether it's a doctor, physical therapist, and you do that in nursing school. So I feel like in terms of like having to do care plans, stuff like that, you don't really do that like as an actual nurse. But I wouldn't say nursing school doesn't prepare you for what you're doing on the floor. Like it does, and there's a reason why it's grueling and why you have clinicals and whatnot. But I think the learning is tailored to which unit you work at. Like I said, I worked in bone marrow transplant, very different from labor and delivery. Because even when I was pregnant, I was just like, I don't know anything about pregnancy, even though you learn about that in nursing school. So it just kind of depends on where your interests are and where you land in your first new grad job.
Talk to you. Okay. Take a look at her face very well. Her name is Ola. Okay.
What's the biggest con or disadvantage in your own perspective about being in the nursing field? What do you hate most about being a nurse, if you have any?
I think when I used to work at the bedside, it didn't bother me at the time because I wasn't married and I was young and single. But for those who maybe are parents or have spouses, you have to work oftentimes overnights. You have to work weekends and holidays, and you can't really bypass that unless you're like like high on the seniority list. And also with nursing, a lot of it does go by seniority as well too. So even with like PTO, it's like in the corporate world, you just ask for PTO and that's it. In the nursing world, that's not it. It really goes by seniority, and also vacation signups it's like in a quarterly type of thing. And so somehow upper leadership thinks that we know, our vacations 6 months down the line. But so I would say vacation / seniority, PTO is a con. Having to work like evenings, nights, or holidays is a con. For those who are parents or have spouses, for a young person, I loved working nights because you make more money doing less. Because most of the patients are asleep. And the night shift crew is just a better vibe than day shift. It's usually younger people. It's not as like stressful. You don't have management. So it's just a more chiller vibe. And then weekends, you get paid more as well too. And then if you work a holiday, you get paid double. So for a young, fresh nurse, it's nice. But down the line, it's a con. So that's why I work in the clinic, because I work like Monday through Friday, because my husband works Monday through Friday, and then our kids. So yeah.
Yeah, we know you have to run one more. So I know there are a lot of programs for like medical where maybe they'll sponsor you and then you have to work 5 years in a particular area, or are there kind of some dedicated nursing programs?
Not necessarily nursing programs, but more so like sign-on bonuses. So for example, like Fairview, say there's a nursing position, but it has a sign-on bonus for like $5,000. Usually there's a stipulation, like you have to work at least 2 years before you leave, otherwise you got to pay money back. So there's more so sign-on bonuses in different hospitals, just because there's such a shortage of nursing, and that's kind of a way to recruit people. But in terms of like nursing programs, there's not really a guarantee to like a specific field. But in terms of the different types of nursing programs, there's the traditional route where you go from high school to your 4-year university. But there's actually a different route called accelerated nursing. It's for those who want to do a career change, and you already need a bachelor's or a master's in something different than nursing. And it's kind of like an accelerator fast track to getting your BSN. So instead of 4 years, it's usually done in like 6 to 18 months. So it's very intense. You low-key can't really be working like that, but it's a fast way to get to your BSN. So a lot of people who want to pursue nursing but don't want to go the full 4 years, that's a really cool and interesting route, and a lot of people don't really know that.
You've been saying a lot of like BSN, MSN, things like that, but can you actually become a registered nurse with just a degree, or do you need something else?
Yeah, so the minimal degree that you can get is an associate's in nursing. Which is just like a 2-year degree at like a community college. I will say if your goal is to work in the hospital, do get your BSN, because that's preferred versus your associates. But if, say, you're really working as like a CNA in the hospital and then you get your associates, like that won't be an issue because you're internal. But if you want to get a hospital job, like I recommend getting your Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, which is a 4-year degree. Then there's a Master's of Science in Nursing if you want to, move on and become maybe like a manager or an instructor. And now there's a DNP, which is a Doctor of Nursing Practice, not a PhD, but a DNP. And it's geared towards if you want to be like a nurse practitioner or a nurse anesthetist. That is usually a 3-year full-time program as well, too. So yes, you do need a degree before you become a nurse, because you need so many clinical hours before you can sit for the board exam. And the school itself needs to sign you off before you can even take the test. So you can't become an RN without the degree. But you can have the degree and not become an RN, so you can become, you can get your nursing degree but not be a nurse because maybe you didn't pass the license exam, but you can't be a nurse without a degree. So the two come hand in hand.
Thank you very much. We know you have to be somewhere. Thanks for taking the time to come share your experience with us. Thank you very much.
But if anybody has any questions about just nursing in general, like I said,
They can see me and then I'll connect to them.
Yes, thank you.
I'm very well connected, I told you. Thank you so much, Vivian. Okay, I said, please come, let me take a picture with you. And then you can go. Again, thank you so much. She's got to run. You know, you've been very generous in trying to stop being still with her baby and all that. You see, those of you who got, when God blesses you with a husband and you have a child, don't make excuses with your child. Okay, still come to church and do everything you have to do. Mother, say amen. Mother, say amen. Mother, I didn't hear your amen. Okay, all right. The next person coming up, you know, is like I said, he's become a friend. You know, Muhammad is a locksmith, and we are doing this for you to. In fact, let me say this way. No matter the profession you get to, one of the things I'm personally realizing is that in America, just a few people of our kind are able to just work 9 to 5 and make it like Kweku and others who have made it. And like he said, you know, God gave him the wisdom. I remember when we were talking about this J.D. Edwards program that he was learning and all that. And it was just God just directing his path, you know. But it's not the norm, right? And typically like Sylvia, who's rising up very strongly as well. Don't be surprised you hear her being a CEO soon and all that. I don't have any doubt about that. But by the way, her husband is here. Uncle Sachs is over there as well. He is a thorough accountant by profession. And I say, pun intended, thorough accountant by profession as well. Another great resource in the house. You can talk to those of you who are into those types of things. And then we also have Victoria's husband, who I have not gotten to know personally yet, but I'm sure, you know, you have the responsibility of getting to know me. Okay. All right. Thank you. Nice guy. All right. No, it's his responsibility to get to know me. Yeah. All right. And so this session, here's why I'm highlighting this. Whether you have a 9 to 5, you have a skill set or whatever it is, we want you also to think entrepreneurial. Okay? I know it doesn't come naturally to everybody, but it's there for some of us. You get it? I gave up my 9 to 5 to the glory of God June 2nd. Okay? I'm now a full-time entrepreneur. You get it? And so if I hadn't used the wisdom I believe God gave me to carve a niche that freed me up to do something like what I'm doing now, guess what? I would have probably cut off something God was doing down the road. So remember, we keep saying this. You know, I'm sure somebody will handle, you know, thinking about, you know, the future and all that. So without much speaking, like I said, Muhammad came to my home, and then a conversation ensued. If I didn't start on a good note, can you admit on that one? It did not start on a good note at all. Yes. But then, you know, by the grace of God, I was able to talk to him. I mean, ended up, you know, helping in here and there. And then I said to him, look, we'll be doing some things together. So today, I'm so excited to share him with you. By the way, before he comes up, you know, what he talks about, there is a formal education route. If you want to go that route, those of you whose parents may be very concerned about doing trades and all that, there's a university called Doane University, right, that trains people to become locksmiths here in Minnesota. You get there's an academic route. Those of you who like degrees, there's an academic route for that as well. And also, if you want to learn not in that formal way, like I said, there's an opportunity for me to connect you with him. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's invite. He has a very compelling story that will lead up to his presentation and the questions. Look, I want to introduce to you my friend Muhammad Haji. Please.
Hello, guys. I am not a person that... I'm a technician. I fix problems, so I'm not good with the mic, so please ask me questions. I originally came from Somalia. I came here as a refugee. I didn't come here with my parents, so straight from Africa and to the system, you know. So I went through a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenges. I wanted to give myself up to doing really, bad stuff, and I found my way back to the right direction. I tried to work for many, many years, just 9 to 5, working like everybody else. And that wasn't working. And then I restarted all from zero. And so eventually I kind of trained myself, but it cost me a lot. I don't know if you guys want to ask me questions.
He has his van out there. He says afterwards, if you want to see, maybe let's switch. If you want to see what he does in session, he can let some of you cut keys and all that. This one, yeah. Cut keys and all that too, please.
What does he do?
So what do you do? Because locksmith, maybe you find Smith and you lock him up. Tell us what you do.
So, since I came to Minnesota in '94, right away I enrolled myself in automotive class. And I didn't speak English. I never went to school before. So I'm trying to, because, some of us have, we take after our father's DNA automatically, even if we're separated into different parts of the world. You automatically, it's in you. I don't know, God, somehow, some way, you become what your dad was sometimes, even if you don't know what your dad was, So, like when I came here, that's what I started to do. But because of the language and the literacy, it was really hard to get the job that respects me, that looks at me like an important person, instead just somebody to grab a broom and just do the dirty stuff. But I have the energy of 10 people, but I am treated just, a mob boy. Worked at many different jobs, many mechanic shops in town. So I continued to work in the same field as a mechanic. And what got me to become a mechanic was, my first car that I bought, I drove it without oil. And so I took it to a mechanic shop. He said, you need an engine. And so I was like, you know what? I don't have money. Keep the car. And I bought another car 2 months later again. I don't know how money came to me, but I got another car. Again, I drove it without oil. Yep, I'm not going to lie. So we all make mistakes, and it's not a certain race that makes certain mistakes. We all make mistakes. So I wrecked my second car. I took it to a mechanic shop, and I asked the mechanic, help me fix it. And then he said, you need an engine, and get out of here, So I was like, keep the car. Then I started to walk to the city bus to catch a bus to go home. And I don't have a home, by the way. At this time, I'm 18, I'm on the streets, no mom, no dad. So I'm trying desperately to fit in and be part of something, somebody to accept me as a young black man. So I walked, and then I turned back around after 6 blocks. I was like, you need to go back over there and learn this automotive stuff, because this is your second car and you don't have a car. So I pretty much went back over there, and I asked the guy if I could just work for free. They don't have to give me food. They don't have to give me a check. Just let me work for free. So I went back over there. I stayed there for 10 months, learning how to do oil change. I was lucky because I came here as a refugee, so I was kind of involved with the Hennepin County system. So I was like a foster kid. So as long as I am going to a job or a school, they would give me $400 a month to be able to cover my expenses and whatnot, So I went back to the shop. I stayed there for 10 months, and then I learned the trade. Then from there, I decided to go to Sears. It's no longer around. It's closed now. So I got a job over there as a tire technician. And that was just before 9/11, And as an immigrant, you're going to face a lot of challenges. You can either quit or you can fight. And so, my name is Mohammed, so it was right during 9/11. I had people making fun of me at Sears, asking me, after test driving the car, if I'm going to hook up bombs to the car. It's funny to them, but it's not funny to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's, if you're an immigrant, you're going to get a lot of challenges. And everybody's going to find you as guilty first and find you innocent later. So I've been through all that, guys. So I kind of stayed in the same field for a while. I don't know. And then eventually, I guess working at Goodyear, Sears, Tires Plus, Firestone, Midas, and all that wasn't working. So I decided to, go in the streets and do some things that God forbid, uh, joining the wrong people, selling drugs and stuff. And then it landed me in jail for 2 years. So, and going to jail wasn't really bad. The part that was really bad was, no, I'm serious, guys. Going to jail wasn't really bad.
That's how he got my attention.
Yep. The part that really, really hurts, when you're in jail or anywhere, is when you don't have anybody to visit you. If you don't have anybody to say hello to you, anybody to write you a letter, and your parents are in Africa, so you're just like talking to yourself in your head, like, man, I was good. How did I end up here? So the jail kind of made me, first of all, I learned how to read really good.
How many books did you say you read?
I used to read 700 pages a day. So I became really, really fluent at understanding English, the English that we were supposed to know. So, and then from there, I made a goal with some brothers that were in there, because all of us were in there, and we all say that, the system, it oppresses us and this and this. I mean, it's true to a certain extent, but at the same time, we allow certain things. We allowed to be whatever we allow. So if you allow to be used, you will be used. Just that. So, I made a promise, when I get out, I said, I'm going to get an education. I'm going to get the same license and degree that the people that put me in here, I'll get the same license and get paid to do what they do and get rewarded, and not work for free. So I was angry. I was really, really angry. Nobody visited me. It hurt me so bad that I'll never forget it, and I worked in jail. I made $3 a day, and that money, I used to use it to buy a stamp and an envelope to reach out to the outside world. And man, that's not nice. And nobody responded. I never got one letter back. And when I was outside, I had, house. I had a beautiful woman, and my house was open to everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a religious person, but almost everybody that came into my house, the way I welcomed them and treated them, I know there's 4 people that thought that, Islam was, a good religion, so actually they, wanted to become Muslim, even though I wasn't practicing Muslim. I was just a kind person. I wasn't about anything else. I was just being kind because I didn't have nobody. I didn't have nothing, so I wanted to make other people feel better because I needed people to feel better myself because I was empty. So after I got out, I did my schooling. So now, after 1 year of schooling, my brain opened up and I started to stand up for myself, and I started to demand respect and what I'm worth. And then things just got better after that. After 2 years, I loved the schooling, and then I went back to schooling again 2 more years. Then I was just having fun after that. Now I was getting paid to have fun. It was kind of cool, and it's what I like doing. I'm doing I love what I do right now. Yep, I help people. I deal with a lot of people. So as I was doing as a locksmith, everything was good. I worked at a mechanic shop for 9 years, and then the guy, he was from Rwanda. He was a really, really nice guy. He treated me really good, gave me a job, trusted me. He let me manage the company, and then eventually the IRS was after him, so they made him close the business. And so when he lost the shop, and then he told me, hey, man, you got to get a job somewhere else. You got to go. Me and the rest of my guys, I had a brother from Togo and another brother, so we all became unemployed overnight. So right from there, I ran into another brother, and he said, hey, go get a tow truck, and I'll help you, get some customers. And so I did that for a little bit. Everything was beautiful. And then afterwards, every time I towed a car, every car that I got called for, it needed a key. And so I was like, you're a mechanic, but don't know anything about keys. So God just kind of brought me to what's going to set me free. So, I'm grateful. Yep. But, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Yep, thank you. Yep.
Can I just start by saying your story
is so compelling.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think for all of us here, the young people, you know, when you look at Muhammad's story, we have every advantage when you compare yourself to Muhammad's story, right? We don't have any excuses. So when you wake up every morning, have the mindset of, I don't have any excuses.
Swear.
I've got to make the best of this life that God has given me.
Yes.
And I have to use every talent, every gift, and fulfill my God-given potential. And that's exactly what Muhammad has done. So I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to ask you, you know, when you were, you know, in your darkest moments in that deepest valley where you had no home, you had no family to even reach out and say, how are you doing? No one to worry about whether you were eating. How did you bring yourself up out of that pit and find the strength to be to where you are today?
Yeah, right away when I came out, I had to start off with a shelter, you know, because I didn't, woman that I loved, you know, I was doing dangerous things and she was afraid for me, for herself and my two sons. So she was trying to keep me away from my kids because I was dangerous, because I was hanging around dangerous people. So she was smart and she did the right thing. To this day, I stand by her because she made the best decisions for our family by keeping bad stuff away from our family. And I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't intentional, but the world doesn't see it like that. And, you know, I have 3 felonies. So with all my degrees, with all my qualification, somebody that didn't even go to school will make more money than me if we go to a job. I mean, I was working at a body shop with 4-year degree. I was getting paid $18 an hour. Another kid that was washing car was making $27 an hour. And so it really bothered me. It really bothered me. The guy didn't even finish high school, but he gets to have, but me with my record, I can't get a regular job anymore. So I have to create my own world.
Thank you.
And so you can't wait. You can't wait. God gave all of us everything. If we wait, it's our choice.
You know, Muhammad, I want you to share the story you shared with me. I highlighted the fact that you need to think outside the box, right? And he has a very good story of someone who was an accomplished, you know, police officer. I want you to take it from there and tell us the story.
Yeah, so, and always have plan A and B and C. So they say sometimes don't put your eggs in one basket. Yeah, so, you know, just have plans, because today you can walk, tomorrow you may not walk. That's it. Tomorrow morning you wake up and you can't even walk anymore. So just prepare yourself and be kind. Every day be kind. That's my favorite part, is be kind. Whatever you do, be kind. If something happens to you tomorrow, people have mercy on you too because of your kindness, you know. Hopefully that takes care of us. It's not promised. Anyways, so there's a young man that has been through a struggle, and I was in his life pretty much his whole life. And this young man was doing very good, and he wanted to be something good and high and get all the good degrees and all that stuff. So, you know, he first joined the Army because he wanted to be something. So he joined the Army, and I was like, you know what, do it. That's a good idea. He looked up to me. I taught him how to drive his first car. So he looked up to me. So he joined the Army. He didn't like it because they were very racist. So he didn't like it, and he was like, I don't want this. He got out, and then he said, I'm going to become a police officer. I was like, okay, I'll help you, because it's good to have somebody in the inside for our community, honest to God. So, you know, when you see something wrong, you can say something about it, you know. So he became a police officer. I did a lot of exercise with him in the mornings so he can pass through the academy, and everything went smooth. He became a cop. Everything was good, and then he got promoted to a sergeant. And then before he got promoted to a sergeant, the advices that I used to give him is like, hey, man, you know, learn how to do something else besides just being a cop. And so I told him that, and he really took me serious, and he took my advice. So he came along with me, and, you know, so he came with me for 3 months. He took some time off from the police force. He rode with me in the front seat. I let him drive, and I sit on the passenger seat with the phone and the book and pen, and I would take all the calls, and then he would go to the destination. Let's go here. Let's go here. We're going to do this. So I pretty much held his hand and trained him, and he became so good within, I'd say, 7 months. He was like, hey, man, I think I can do this. I want to start my own company. Can you help me? I was like, yeah. I said, use exactly my website, how it's built. Just change a little bit, create your own stuff, and then now you have your own thing. So he's been doing that, and because he's a black man and he's a police officer, I said, you have a leverage. I said, use this leverage to get into certain doors that you're usually not allowed to go into because of your badge. I said, use that. So anyways, he connected himself with a lot of places because he's a cop. People want to work with him more, and he's black, so it's really nice. So eventually, the locksmithing was going beautiful, and he was doing it part-time. His wife would answer the phones, and then when he gets off work, he would do the locksmithing job. So he was making over $100,000 as a part-time as a locksmith. Yep. Yep. So everything was beautiful, you know, and then then all of a sudden, one morning, the cops came to his house at 3 a.m. Not just one, but like 40 of them with big guns.
And that's an active police officer.
This is an active police. This is a real story. This is a true story. Yep. So 3 a.m., they came to his house with a bunch of guns because I don't know what the hell they were thinking. The guy is a sergeant. I mean, respect him, you know? So they came to his house to remove his kids from his house. Yep. He has 3 daughters, and then he has 2 kids because he grew up in the foster care system, so he decided he wants to take kids that don't have parents to his house. So he has 2 kids that he was helping out that don't have parents. So everything was good. So anyways, the cops came and took his kids, and then, you know, as a police officer, he's supposed to report to his commanding officer anytime he has an interaction with the police. So in the morning, he tried to call his commander, and his commander already was informed of what happened. So he was told, come on in, turn your badge in and your gun.
Can you imagine?
Yep, yep.
All the service he's done, it didn't matter.
10 years.
10 years of giving his life on the streets of Minneapolis. It didn't matter. Listen, the system is rigged. That's why we need to
System is rigged.
We need to think about, because I'm sure that if it was a white police officer, he would have been handled differently.
Completely different. And the reason why they took his kids from the house is he has beautiful daughters, and he disciplined his daughter because he wanted her to be the best. His 17-year-old daughter graduated from high school and college at the same time, so she's really smart, and he was trying to keep his family to do better than he did, you know, because he suffered. He doesn't want the kids to suffer, so he was doing what he could. And so he disciplined his daughter. He slapped his daughter because she was smoking a vape, and he was against it. So that's how his whole career came to an end.
So
and not only that,
one thing,
that's just one thing. Yep. And then his wife, she's a psychology something, I don't know the terminology. She works with the state. She helps with kids that don't have parents and things like that, you know, deals with the courts. So her and her husband both got released Monday morning, instantly, overnight. They have a house in the suburb. They just came back from a vacation to Africa. They spent $15,000, and they come back. They don't have a job now. So this young man is very fortunate. I gave him some ideas, and
so now that's what is paying for his mortgage and his livelihood. The locksmith stuff.
Yep.
Is what is paying for his livelihood and paying for his mortgage. I think this story is very important. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
So, yes. So I'm sure that if there is any follow-up questions, we can. Are you leaving right away?
No, I'm good. You guys can ask me questions.
So, like he said, also, his van is out. I don't know how we're going to do it, but if you want to see what he does, he can even give you a practice session where you can actually make a key yourself, if you will. Doc, maybe one more question, just one question. One question. That's the final one for him, because I think the story, I wanted him to share that story. I think it was good, right? Okay.
Thank you.
One question.
My question for you is, you spoke about how, like, you dropped your car off and said that they can keep the car. You walked back and asked them to teach you everything without cost or whatever for 10 months. So I wanted to ask, what kind of helped you get through those 10 months of kind of being still and learning the skills that you needed to kind of progress into your next chapter of your life?
Okay. So, I was working with some Hispanic guys that didn't speak English, so it's kind of hard to ask questions. I would just listen to whatever they tell me. I'd say, okay. So I guess the first things I learned was, the importance of liquids in cars, oil and coolant and things like that. Those are the most important thing. That's the number one reason why a lot of cars are at the junkyard, because of no oil or oil-related, small maintenance stuff. So I just kind of paid attention to the stuff, basic stuff, and then from there I kind of pushed myself to do more. But it was really a challenge, to go to some of these big shops and try to train and work there, because they would only let you stay in one area. Because I guess I can understand they have insurance, they're corporation, and they don't want problems. So anybody that's not trained or doesn't have the degree, whatever they call it, they kind of don't want you to advance. So you'll just be doing small stuff, that's it. But if you want to go up, you have to put in the work and just, now with YouTube and everything, you can become anything, I swear. Oh my God. You can become anything. You can do things that you could never do before. You could do it, but you do have to take the time and, educate yourself.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I think we should appreciate him. So like I said, we have an opportunity that is ready for anybody that is willing to learn, okay? We can help you. And there's a schooling opportunity. I'll put that school on our platform, the Fake Out platform as well. So now what we're going to do is, Mohammed, we're going to go with you to do a demo of what you do. And then at 2, we'll all come back downstairs. We are going to go downstairs. The choir has to use this place. And then we'll continue with the other professionals in the house. We have Richie, we have Dr. Emmanuel, we have Sister Sylvia, we have this gentleman that I'm waiting to hear as well. And then we have Victoria as well. Victoria, you have to give us some time, okay? Wonderful.
Sorry, guys, for taking up the time.
Oh,
I came a little late. I'm really sorry.
Don't do it.
But ask questions, and any questions you guys have. I love helping people because I kind of grew up without a mom and dad. I got this far by just strangers like you guys. So ask me questions. I would love to help anybody. Anybody.
So see me. I'll yeah. All right, let's go downstairs and see what he does. So, Mom, we can go and show us. Just demo some of the things. We'll see his van and all that. Let's go.